But the First Amendment doesn't protect lies that hurt and defame people. And there's a difference. Ms. Heard has no right to tell the world that Mr. Depp physically or sexually assaulted her when that isn't true. That's not protected speech. Our U.S. Constitution doesn't protect that speech. And it is a core value of American society that you are innocent until proven guilty. There is a presumption of innocence in this country.
Just checking in.
A person's life cannot and should not be destroyed by a baseless charge and no opportunity to defend yourself. That's why Mr. Depp had to bring this claim.
Mic check.
Ms. Heard was never going to stop calling him an abuser. The only way to clear his name was to stand up in this court, where both sides are bound by the same rules of American law. A jury would be tasked, you, ladies and gentlemen, would be tasked with deciding once and for all Ms. Heard's lies could be exposed in a fair and impartial process. When Mr. Depp sued her, Ms. Heard apparently decided she needed to sue him back. And because there were no statements made by Mr. Depp on which she could base the claim, she sued him based on statements made by one of his lawyers, Adam Waldman, calling Ms. Heard's accusations of abuse a hoax. Make no mistake, though, they are a hoax. Ms. Heard made up claims of abuse, and then she gave a performance where she passionately repeated those made-up claims of abuse on the stand in front of each of you. But ask yourselves, who's really the one alleging a hoax here? Who wants you to believe that everyone else is lying, committing perjury? Ms. Heard needs you to believe that all the people who showed up in this courtroom to testify on behalf of Mr. Depp, they're all lying. She needs you to believe that the witnesses you heard from, including security professionals, former cops, medical professionals, and police officers, they're all lying, covering up for Mr. Depp. She's asking you to believe that she's the one telling the truth and that the rest of the people in Mr. Depp's life are all part of a conspiracy of silence. This case is not just about whether you believe Mr. Depp or you believe Ms. Heard. This case is about whether you believe Ms. Heard or whether you believe Mr. Depp, Chrissy Dombrowski, who, yes, is here, supporting her brother. Isaac Baruch, who wept in front of the world. Keenan Wyatt, who doesn't work for Mr. Depp. Sean Betts, a former LA Sheriff's Department. Malcolm Connolly, he worked in the prisons in the UK. Starling Jenkins, a former US Marine. Travis McGivern, also another former police officer. Ben King, he worked for the Queen of England. David Kipper, Dr. David Kipper. Ms. Heard's doctor. And yes, Mr. Depp's doctor. Debbie Lloyd, a nurse. Aaron Filati, Ms. Heard's personal nurse. Officer Sines, an LA police officer with training in domestic violence. Officer Haddon, her understudy, yes, in his first week, studying to pick up on these signs of domestic abuse. Officer Gatlin, Brandon Patterson, who worked at Eastern Columbia Building. Kate James, Ms. Heard's former personal assistant. Tara Roberts. Alejandro Romero. He took his deposition from his car because he had to go to work, but it didn't stop him from telling the truth. Edward White, Mr. Depp's business manager. Laura Wasser, one of the most famous divorce lawyers in California. Morgan Knight. Beverly Leonard. Morgan Tremaine. And Kate Moss. And all the other witnesses whose stories support Mr. Depp's description of what took place. These people have nothing to gain by coming forward. They have everything to lose. You have seen Mr. Waldman's statements and evidence in this case. When you look at them, you can tell that the key point Mr. Waldman was making in each of these statements was simply that Ms. Heard's accusations against Mr. Depp were lies. That's why he talks about an abuse hoax. Now, Ms. Heard has a burden of proof of proving that Mr. Waldman's statements are false. And that means that Ms. Heard has to do more than prove that Mr. Waldman got some details wrong. She has to prove that Mr. Waldman's statements are false in their essential meaning. In other words, she has to prove that her abuse claims are not a hoax. But as we've seen, the evidence is overwhelming that Ms. Heard's claims of abuse are false. We should also spend a bit of time talking about actual malice. It is Ms. Heard's burden to prove that Mr. Waldman's statements were made with actual malice. And actual malice means knowledge that the statements were false or reckless, and that's an important word, reckless disregard for the truth. But here, there is clear evidence that Mr. Waldman genuinely believed that Ms. Heard had committed a hoax. You watched him give the testimony by deposition in this case. He testified about the evidence he found persuasive, the numerous witnesses and the sworn depositions of the police officers who went to the penthouses that night and again saw no injuries. There is no evidence in this record, none, that Mr. Waldman acted with actual malice. He believed Mr. Depp. He believed the record. It's also important to understand that because Mr. Waldman's statements were not made by Mr. Depp, Ms. Heard needs to prove that Mr. Waldman was acting as Mr. Depp's agent. And within the scope of that agency, within the scope of the agency of the employment, when he made the statements, Mr. Waldman is a lawyer. Ms. Heard has not presented evidence that making those statements was part of Mr. Waldman's responsibilities as Mr. Depp's lawyer. There's nothing in the record. Ms. Heard is also claiming to be suffering from PTSD and claims that she has something to do with Mr. Waldman's statements. Ms. Heard wants you to believe that she suffers from PTSD because Mr. Depp purportedly abused her. But as usual, Ms. Heard is not telling the truth. As you heard from Dr. Shannon Curry, Ms. Heard does not have PTSD, and she does not act like a person with PTSD. Ms. Heard is an actress in a major film, involved in sommelier training. She just had a baby. Dr. Curry also found that Ms. Heard attempted to grossly exaggerate her symptoms during testing, which is a sign of malingering, or said differently, of Ms. Heard lying. Ms. Heard hired Dr. Don Hughes to help her with this narrative. Dr. Hughes did not catch Ms. Heard's exaggeration during testing because Dr. Hughes used an improper malingering screen test. She wasn't going to find it. One that is meant to identify an examinee's attempt to fake a severe mental illness or psychosis, not PTSD. Dr. Hughes diagnosed Ms. Heard with PTSD without administering the gold standard diagnostic test used for PTSD. She diagnosed her, think about that, she diagnosed her with PTSD before administering the test she admitted was the gold standard. 2 years after diagnosing Ms. Heard with PTSD, and shortly after Dr. Curry administered the gold standard diagnostic test in her evaluation of Ms. Heard, but before it was disclosed, Dr. Hughes decided to administer the gold standard. Finally. Nevertheless, even after Dr. Hughes used the proper test, there were a number of deficiencies in her administration of that test. You saw them, including her failure to even follow the instructions that render her diagnoses unreliable. Ms. Heard's claim for monetary damages related to Mr. Waldman's statements, frankly, it's a fantasy. Ms. Heard speculates wildly that she has somehow been damaged by Mr. Waldman's statements. But in reality, Ms. Heard has not shown any damage at all that was because of or by Mr. Waldman's statements. There is evidence of a mountain of negative press coverage about Ms. Heard, including press reports about her defecating in Mr. Depp's bed, cutting off his finger, and putting out a cigarette on his face. But none of that has anything to do with Mr. Waldman's statements. And Ms. Heard has presented no evidence, none, of any film or other project that she has lost because of the statements. In fact, you heard from Warner Brothers president, Walter Hamada, who explained that Ms. Heard suffered no loss, none. No loss of compensation or other adverse effect on her major film, Aquaman 2. You heard it straight from him. Ms. Heard's expert, Catherine Arnold, testified, but for the statements from Mr. Waldman, Ms. Heard would be much more successful in her career. To form this opinion, Ms. Arnold compares Ms. Heard to actors such as Jason Momoa, the actual Aquaman, Chris Pine, Gal Gadot, and Zendaya. But as Richard Marx, who does deals every day, that's his job, not testifying here for a paycheck, does deals in Hollywood, and Doug Banya both testified that these actors are simply not comparable to Ms. Heard. After all, Jason Momoa, he was Aquaman. Chris Pine, he was Captain Kirk. Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman. Zendaya, she's been acting since she was 13 years old on the Disney Channel, and she's in every single Spider-Man movie. Further, the Q scores of these actors are not at all comparable with Ms. Heard's Q scores. As Mr. Banya testified, Ms. Heard's rating was less compared to these actors, and all of Ms. Heard's Q scores ratings were less favorable than the average of all performers. As you heard from Michael Spindler, because Ms. Arnold relies on the salaries of these comparable actors to calculate Ms. Heard's damages, Ms. Heard's claim for damages makes no sense. There's no connection. Further, and more fatally for Ms. Heard's damages claim, is that there's no connection to the Waldman statements, to Mr. Waldman's statements. Even if you find damage to her career, you have to connect it to the defamatory statements. There is no connection. Mr. Banya testified that all the negative tweets that Ms. Heard has entered into evidence have no causal connection to the statements underlying Ms. Heard's counterclaims. Specifically, Ms. Heard's expert, Mr. Ron Schell, presented a flawed methodology that included picking out hashtags at random, including justice for Johnny Depp. What does that have to do with the Waldman statements? And counting accompanying tweets, even though it had nothing to do with Mr. Waldman. Ms. Heard's counterclaim is based on statements by Mr. Waldman, not Mr. Depp. Ms. Heard knows perfectly well that she hasn't suffered any damages from those statements, buried at the bottom of articles in a mere tabloid, the Daily Mail. And the statements are substantially true, since all they do really is point out that Ms. Heard's abuse allegations are false. Ms. Heard's counsel argued that Ms. Heard did not write the title of the online version of the op-ed, which stated, "I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change." It does not matter whether or not Ms. Heard wrote the title. You will recall from the court's instructions this morning that what matters is whether Ms. Heard republished the defamatory language. That instruction states in part that you should find Ms. Heard republished this article if she, quote, retransmitted the defamatory material with the goal of achieving a new audience. Stated differently, republication occurs when the speaker has affirmatively, that's important, affirmatively reiterated the statement. Ms. Heard affirmatively reiterated the statement. She posted it on her Twitter. If we could please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 3. This is the tweet Ms. Heard sent. She retweeted the Washington Post tweet to a new audience, her own Twitter followers. And she affirmatively reiterated the statement by proudly declaring, "Today I published this op-ed in the Washington Post." She didn't quibble with the title. She said proudly, "Today I published this op-ed in the Washington Post." The title of the op-ed was prominently displayed in the tweet. That is enough for you, members of the jury, to find that Ms. Heard republished the title of the op-ed and adopted the statement as her own. She can and should be held liable and responsible for that statement. Ms. Heard tries to make something out of the fact that Mr. Waldman reported her to law enforcement in Los Angeles for perjury after her allegations of abuse were made against Mr. Depp. But I'll submit to you that all this proves is that Mr. Waldman believes Ms. Heard has committed perjury. Mr. Ronborn argued that the lack of supporting evidence for Ms. Heard's allegations of horrendous, constant abuse is somehow not something to be considered, that it is shameful for you to consider the fact that she didn't document all the terrible injuries that she claims to have suffered. That is a twisted argument. First, you know, because you have seen and listened to Ms. Heard in action, that Ms. Heard is a woman who's documenting things throughout their relationship. And it is instructive that the things she chose to document had nothing to do with violence. She documented Mr. Depp sleeping. She documented lines of cocaine, featuring prominently Mr. Depp's loan-out company or production company, Infinitum. Stage photographs, that's what she documented. Mr. Rottenborn's entire argument assumes that Mr. Depp, a man, should be disbelieved because despite the fact that Ms. Heard can't support her accusations with actual evidence. What we have put to you, the jury, is not that because Ms. Heard didn't take enough pictures or tell people about abuse that it didn't happen. What we have put to you is that given how brutal and constant the abuse Ms. Heard claims, she would have had serious injuries. That's a fact. She would have had serious injuries that would have been observable in the pictures we looked at and by the witnesses we heard from, and would have required medical attention. That's it. Ms. Heard testifies to injuries that multiple people didn't see. What you have in the end is Ms. Heard's word. Do you trust it? We are not here because Ms. Heard told the world Mr. Depp was verbally abusive. This is not about the words used by Mr. Depp. We are here because Ms. Heard told the world that Mr. Depp was physically and sexually abusive. That's what Ms. Heard was saying in the op-ed. On May 27th, exactly 6 years ago today, 2016, Ms. Heard walked into court with a mark on her face to tell the world that her husband was abusive. She renewed that falsehood in her op-ed, describing herself as a public figure representing domestic abuse. And she published the op-ed, including the title, claiming that she spoke up against sexual violence. Everyone knew who she was talking about when she used those words. She was alleging physical and sexual abuse. She was not alleging emotional or psychological abuse. She was alleging physical and sexual abuse. Ms. Heard cannot run away from her own allegations now. You have all heard the evidence of what she alleged against Mr. Depp in 2016, and you have all heard her incredibly dramatic, over-the-top story of physical and sexual abuse. That story was a defamatory lie. Ms. Heard tried to argue that you only need to find that Mr. Depp might have touched Ms. Heard once in order to find in her favor, because that makes her a victim of abuse. But common sense should tell you that you can't pick and choose Ms. Heard's allegations. You saw her on the stand. We all did. She gave the performance of her life, telling you story after story of abuse. And not just any abuse, but extravagant, over-the-top allegations of abuse that would be truly brutal, horrific, if true. You either believe all of it, or you believe none of it. Either she's telling the truth, including in her most extreme allegations, or she's lying. Either she was raped by a bottle, or she's the sort of person who would get on the stand in this courtroom and lie to you and the world about being raped. And if she would lie about that, what wouldn't she lie about? You can't find that Mr. Depp hit her once. Either he hit her countless times, or you can't believe a single word that comes out of her mouth. And what is the actual meaning of Ms. Heard's op-ed? That's an important question. It's not that Mr. Depp said a nasty word to her once. It's not that Mr. Depp might have hit her once. It's that she is a representative of domestic abuse. And by extension, Mr. Depp is a representative of abuse perpetrators. Words matter. Ms. Heard has shown you a lot of text messages from Mr. Depp with some very vivid language. As I told you at the start of this trial, Mr. Depp has a unique style of writing. He uses words I don't use, and you probably don't use either. But as you also heard during this trial, Mr. Depp writes in that way in part because he modeled his writings on literary giants like Hunter S. Thompson, and he's got a dark sense of humor. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's who he is. And Mr. Depp owns text messages. He acknowledges that he said those things, and he said things that he shouldn't have. But using bad language and colorful humor does not mean that you are a violent abuser. And ironically, as much as Ms. Heard is trying to use Mr. Depp's words against him, it is Ms. Heard who repeatedly admitted to violence. In her own words. You've heard the tapes. You've heard her admit to violence. Ms. Heard can try to distract you with text messages showing that Mr. Depp uses bad language and has a dark sense of humor. But none of that, I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, none of that is evidence of abuse. Hitting your husband is evidence of abuse. Mr. Ronborn talked about the burden of proof. Let's talk about that for a minute. Mr. Depp only has to show that it is more likely than not, that the statements in the op-ed are false, that it is more likely than not that they have a defamatory implication, that it is more likely than not that Ms. Heard designed and intended the statements to refer to Mr. Depp. And the evidence on these points is clear. Ms. Heard made these allegations 6 years ago today, May 27th, 2016. She went out of her way to make them public, tipping off TMZ. When she published the op-ed, she was reminding everyone in Hollywood and the world of her abuse claims. And those claims are a lie. Consider what the true purpose of the article. Mr. Ronborn said it was to promote legislative reforms. But what was it actually? The evidence shows it was to promote Ms. Heard. It was timed to be released at the same time as Aquaman on December 21st, 2018. And it was timed to coincide with her announcement of her ambassadorship at the ACLU for women's rights. That's not a coincidence. It was designed that way. That was not a statement about legislative reforms. This was about burnishing Ms. Heard's reputation at the expense of Mr. Depp's. It was about Ms. Heard continuing to portray herself as a heroic survivor of abuse. And on the question of actual malice, that just means whether or not Ms. Heard knew the allegations were false. Ms. Heard knows perfectly well that she wasn't abused. She has direct knowledge of that. She was in that relationship. So actual malice is easily established. You may have noticed that no one showed up for Ms. Heard in this courtroom other than her sister. Every other witness who traveled to Virginia for her was a paid expert. This is a woman who burns bridges. Her close friends don't show up for her. Mr. Rottenborn tried to discredit Mr. Depp's witnesses by suggesting they're all on Mr. Depp's payroll. So he doubled down on the hoax theory, that everyone's just lying. First of all, it's not even true Keenan Wyatt is on his payroll. Ben King isn't on his payroll. Officer Melissa Sines isn't on his payroll. Morgan Tremaine isn't on his payroll. Officer Tyler Haddon, he's not on his payroll. Beverly Leonard, Alejandro Romero, Brandon Patterson, Morgan Knight, none of those people are on his payroll. And Kate on Mr. Depp's payroll. Ms. Heard wants you to believe that all these people are lying. Let's talk about the Boston plane. Ms. Heard wants you to believe that the recording you heard is from the Boston plane flight. But that's quite telling. What did Ms. Heard capture of this supposed rampage? Mr. Depp moaning in distress?
Checking in.
That's what she chose to record. What sort of person record
Let me know if you guys
something
can hear
like
me
that.
now. AH testifies for the first time.
What sort of person takes pictures of their husband or boyfriend or fiance who's struggling with sobriety, nodding off with ice cream dripping down his leg,
Ouch.
his hand in his pocket, or asleep on the ground? What sort of person does that? Definitely not someone that's afraid of him. And Ms. Heard's attorney told a story of May 21
Yeah, you guys
that
can
was
hear me?
completely, utterly inconsistent with the testimonies of Officers Sines and Haddon, who testified clearly that they saw no signs of injury, no sign of property damage.
Oh.
And she told a story about how Officer Sadanaga,
Talk louder.
right?
I can turn my mic up.
Sadanaga's testimony was also wrong. She testified that the report was only required in case of a crime. Ms. Heard's attorneys tried to tell you that Mr. Depp apologized on May 22nd because he had hit Ms. Heard. Mr. Depp didn't apologize to Ms. Heard on May 22nd for hitting her. He apologized because he was leaving Ms. Heard. And this was a woman that, in spite of all her violence and all her rage, Mr. Depp, he loved her. He had been with her for years. Of course he apologized when he finally broke
Closed
it off.
captions, I'll try.
Ms. Bredehoff also tried to tell you that Ms. Heard did everything in her power to keep the authorities away and to not get Mr. Depp in trouble on May 21st, 2016. Take a minute and think back to what Ms. Heard did 6 days later, 6 years ago today. She walked into court with a visible mark on her face, not wearing makeup that day. She tipped off TMZ, she made it public, and she showed up on the cover of People magazine with a mark on her face. Was that protecting Mr. Depp? Or was she trying to destroy him? Mr. Ronborn asked you to consider why you're here. So why are you here? You're here because of a lie. And that was a lie that Ms. Heard repeated in the op-ed. At the start of this trial, we told you that this trial is about the evidence. The evidence overwhelmingly shows that Ms. Heard is an abuser and that she is a liar. She lied about Mr. Depp and took on the role of a lifetime as a public figure representing domestic abuse. What is her best evidence of that abuse? A video of Mr. Depp banging cabinets around, and text messages of Mr. Depp using bad words and dark, ugly humor, but never once admitting to abuse. Pictures of Mr. Depp sleeping. That's her best evidence.
I just
Ms.
tried
Heard
CC,
herself.
so we'll see if it works.
Ms. Heard held herself out to the world as a representative of abuse survivors everywhere, the face of the Me Too movement. This is not a Me Too situation. There are no Me Toos, just not me's. Ms. Heard does not deserve to be known as a representative of survivors of abuse, and Mr. Depp does not deserve to be known as a representative of perpetrators of abuse. That is what this case is about. It's not about money. It's about giving Mr. Depp his life back 6 years ago when she took it away. While you deliberate, ask yourselves why Mr. Depp would put himself through this. Expose every embarrassing detail of his life on national television. If he was guilty of anything that Ms. Heard accuses him of. We ask you, we implore you, to render a verdict for Mr. Depp. We ask you to set the record straight, that he is not the abuser she described, and that she is not the heroic survivor she portrayed. And we ask you to tell Ms. Heard that what she did was wrong. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. Rebuttal closing?
How about that?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's interesting that in both their opening and their rebuttal closing, that you heard Mr. Depp's attorneys address none of Ms. Heard's witnesses. None of Ms. Heard's witnesses. They listed their own, who didn't see, who were on his payroll, weren't there behind closed doors with him, but they didn't address any of the witnesses. For example, Josh Drew, Rocky Pennington, Liz Mars, who were all there on May 21st, Melanie Iglesias, who covered Ms. Heard's bruises. They say that no one showed up for her.
I'm looking at the
No one showed up for her,
that's
but then they
sped up.
say that these people aren't friends anymore.
I'm looking
They're
at the
not friends
rebuttal already,
anymore.
but I'm still hearing Camille.
Then why would they be doing what they would suggest are lying for her? Why would they be corroborating everything that she says?
I want to see if I can refresh this real quick, guys. Sorry. I'm sorry. Way to go, Camille. Way to
verbal,
go.
emotional,
Now,
psychological,
Camille, now it's
sexual,
started.
any of the ways of abuse, then your job is very easy. And you can not only deny
I'm still hearing it on quite the delay, but we should be. Is the stream frozen for you guys? I hope it is not. Come on.
Mr. Depp's claim, but you can fine for Amber on her counterclaim. And it's interesting that Ms. Vasquez just changed their theory after 6 weeks. She said, oh, well, domestic abuse just means physical abuse. It's not what Mr. Depp said. It's not what Dr. Curry said. It's not what Dr. Hughes said. It's not what you know to be true. You know that the evidence that you've seen constitutes all sorts of abuse. And there's a reason that they're running as fast as they can from those sorts of abuse.
We should be caught up now.
He did it. Now, the suggestion that Amber's abuse allegations are a hoax is vicious and vile. Mr. Depp can say whatever he wants now, but he can't change the evidence that you've seen at the trial.
All right, Kelly, you
The
guys can
evidence
all hear me?
shows that Ms.
Playing
Heard
again?
did not
We should be
commit
caught up.
abuse hoaxes. Not about sexual violence, not about May 21st, 2016, and certainly
Angel.
not about Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman's catch-all, all-purpose statement that Ms. Heard's abuse hoax, which suggests that every one of her allegations are false, that that's coming to an end. The evidence shows she did not commit any of those hoaxes. The evidence shows that she was abused exactly how not only she, but her witnesses supporting her claims say that she was. And their witnesses, even, who claim that Mr. Depp
Thank you,
abused
guys.
her.
You guys are all helping me. I appreciate it.
Ms. Vasquez talked about actual malice. She says because Mr. Waldman was acting as Mr. Depp's agent, you have to look at Mr. Waldman. They're standing in the shoes of one another. And as Mr. Depp's agent, Mr. Depp's malice is Mr. Waldman's malice. Mr. Depp's malice is Mr. Waldman's malice. He acted with actual malice when he made these statements. Now, after years and years of Mr. Depp controlling the roles that Ms. Heard took, Ms. Heard had the biggest hit of her career 3 months before she was sued. She had withstood Mr. Depp's attempt to have her fired from Aquaman and his own jealousy as his career went down the drain.
The evidence does
before
not
her
show
Aquaman,
that.
for reasons having nothing to do with Ms. Heard. But once the lawsuit against Ms. Heard was filed, his campaign that he promised to destroy her
You're a
entered a
bum.
new phase. And then it reached a crescendo when Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman decided to meet with the Daily Mail together and decide to plant statements that were defamatory of Ms. Heard in the spring of 2020, leading up to the UK trial. You've heard Amber and her agent,
Zoom in on
Jessica Kovacevic, talk about the impact to Amber's career. She can't get hired because of the negative treatment she gets. Studios like her, co-stars like her, she tests well, but she can't get opportunities because of the negativity associated with Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman. You heard Amber Heard on the stand yesterday telling you exactly what she has experienced as a result of Mr. Depp's promise to bring her global humiliation. That promise To paraphrase Catherine Arnold, Ms. Heard's damages expert, that promise was a spark. And that promise he kept because he had told her again and again, the only way out of this is death. And when she chose a different path out of it, he decided to make that promise. He decided to throw that spark. And when Mr. Waldman became involved, that spark became a forest fire. That forest fire has continued to this day. We ask, ladies and gentlemen, that you hold Mr. Depp accountable for his actions. Stand up for victims of domestic abuse everywhere who suffer in silence. Stand up for the freedom of speech, the freedom to speak about your life that the First Amendment protects. Give Amber Heard her voice back. Give Amber Heard her life back. Thank you so much for your service on this jury.
Thank you, Mr. Rottenborn. Members of the jury, this is an important case to both the plaintiff and the defendant. In order to reach a verdict, each of you must agree on that verdict. In other words, your verdict must be unanimous. The first thing you should do when you go back to the jury room is to select a presiding juror. The role of the presiding juror is to see to it that the deliberations are conducted in an orderly and businesslike manner, that they are conducted only in the jury room when all the members of the jury are present, and that each juror has the opportunity to fully and fairly express his or her views. It is rarely helpful for jurors upon first entering the jury room to take a straw vote or for any juror to make an emphatic expression of his or her opinion in the case or to announce a determination to stand for a certain verdict. To do so before all jurors have had an opportunity to consult with one another and exchange views and opinions might allow your sense of pride to prevent you from retreating from an announced position, even when shown that such position is unsound. You have a duty to consult with one another and to deliberate with the objective of reaching an agreement. It can be done without offending your individual judgment. Each of you must decide this case for yourself, but only after an impartial consideration of the evidence with your fellow jurors. In the course of deliberation, a juror should not hesitate to re-examine his or her views and change his or her opinion if convinced it is an error. However, none of you should surrender your honest conviction as to the weight or effect of the evidence solely because of the opinion of your fellow jurors or for the mere purpose of returning a verdict. In the jury room, you will have the exhibits that were entered into evidence. You will also have the instructions of law that I just read to you, and you will have the verdict forms. You'll also have a laptop, and that laptop will have just 2 files on it, and Deputy Lusa will set it up for you in the jury room. One is the plaintiff's files for audio and video files, and one's the defendant's files for audio and video files, and you'll be able to hear and watch those as well, the ones that were submitted into evidence. During your deliberations until you are discharged from jury service, you must not communicate with or provide any information to anyone who is not a member of this jury by any means about this case. You may not use any electronic device or media to conduct any independent research about this case, the legal or factual issues in the case, and the individuals or attorneys involved in the case. You are not permitted to consult dictionaries or reference materials, search the internet, visit websites or blogs, or use any other tools to obtain information about this case or to help you decide the case. Do not try to find out information from any source outside of the testimony and the exhibits received as evidence during the trial. You will also have, I know the attorneys discussed briefly about the verdict forms. You'll have 2 sets of verdict forms, one for Mr. Depp's case and one for Ms. Heard's case, okay? Now, when you have these verdict forms, the first 3 pages of both verdict forms have each of the statements separately. Okay, so when you're going through it, you're going to look at each statement separately and answer the questions that are on the page, okay? Now, if you decide yes for every question for a statement, then that's when you go to the last page of the verdict form, which is for damages.
Sorry,
so,
guys,
for example, if you find yes for all of statement 1, then you could go to 4 and 5 for damages. If you find yes for all of statement 1 and statement 2, you still go to 4 and 5 for damages. If you say yes for statement 1, statement 2, and statement 3, you obviously go to 4 and 5 for damages. If you answer no on any of the pages for any of the statements, you don't go to 4 and 5. Okay, so that will be for all of them. And then when you do come to a verdict, make sure the foreperson signs it and dates it, and then just let the deputy know about that. Okay. All right, now, for the tough part, You may remember at the beginning
This
of
is
this
the
case.
boring shit now, where it's kind
I
of like
told
jury
you we would
instructions this
randomly
morning,
select
where you
4
got to
people
sit
to
there
be
and
the
they're being
alternates,
told
okay?
exactly
We still have 2
how
alternates
to
left.
put their official decisions in.
And the numbers were placed in the envelope in the very beginning of the case. So let me just say before I release the alternates that I know that this trial has been a huge sacrifice for all of you. And I have taken, and you've taken away from your life for weeks on end here. And I know I speak for all of us associated with the case, and I want to thank you for your service in this matter. I know how hard it is to come this far and then not get a chance to deliberate, but that does not lessen the respect and admiration that we have for you. As an alternate, you will not deliberate, but you are still under order of this court not to do any outside research in this case or to talk to anyone about this case at this time, and you're still under your oath as a juror.
Yeah.
That is because
These
if
people
something
suck.
happens to a juror
That's
during
a part of the
deliberations,
YouTube
I will
world, though.
call you back for service.
You just ignore
and
them,
you
I'll
will
handle
join
it.
the deliberations, and they'll start again, and you'll be part of the jury. So you are under these restrictions and your oath until a verdict is reached. We will contact you once this has occurred, and then you'll be free from your obligations.
Here we go.
Okay? But again, thank you for your service. All right? So in this matter, the alternate jurors are juror number 3 and 14. All right? At this time, those jurors are excused, and also the remaining jurors can retire now to the jury room to begin their deliberations. Okay? So thank you all. Okay?
Guys, if you haven't hit that like button yet, do that for me. It lets other people know as we get into the Q&A. Come check it out. Especially now that the audio is fixed. They're about to go into deliberations. Get your questions ready.
So it'll always be at the top of the hour. So for example, if I get the verdict at 10:20 in the morning, it wouldn't be read until noon. So it's always going to be at the top of the hour, at least 60 minutes.
If I was
later, if that
listening
makes
to the
sense. That
Legal
gives you
Bites
time.
stream
I would ask
correctly,
that at
juror
least
number
one attorney
3
is
was the
close
one
enough
who's
within a
like
10-minute range
most
for any questions. I'd appreciate that.
like
Okay.
displeased.
And I
or
know
just
some of the
not-
attorneys are going to be
doesn't show
leaving, so
one
I
way
just
or the
wanted
other, so I
to
think
thank all
that's
of you for
big
your
for Johnny Depp's
professionalism
team.
and your hard work during this
We'll
case.
see.
It's much easier being a judge when you have excellent
Quotes.
trial attorneys in front of you. It
Judges
does make
making
it
a bunch of weird
easier.
hand signals.
And I also want to thank the attorneys and litigants for the kindness
Okay.
and the great demeanor you've shown to my staff.
All right, guys. So
and to the
I
courthouse
believe we are
staff
now
and to the deputies and the sheriff's department.
in
I
official
really
jury
appreciate it.
deliberations.
It means
They
a great
are
deal, to me. Okay, and I also
excusing
appreciate
the
Judy because she's
jurors.
a rock star. Okay,
What makes you angry, Kelly?
yes, thank you.
They are excusing the jurors
Well,
that
that's
are
a first.
now
Okay.
free from this trial. They are not going to go in and make...
All right.
That is one thing on which Ms. Preda-Hofton,
So
we
judge says we're going to get
respectfully
notification.
Agree, completely agree. Completely agree.
Well, good. I'm glad on the last day we finally have an agreement.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're very grateful, thank you.
You want to approach? Or?
Round of applause for the court reporter. Elaine saying thank you to the jury. All right, folks. All right, there we go. It is in the jury's hands now. So what do we do in that situation? Now it is time for us to chat. Okay. Hi, I'm Cam Williamson. Nice to meet you. If you don't know who I am the podcast host to the Road to Redemption podcast. Let's start here. We got Jessica Myron. Do you think she should be charged with perjury for all the lies she testified as truth? Before I answer that question, I want to say this. I am not a lawyer. I'm not a mental health professional. That is for Legal Bites and other channels like that to handle. I am a layman talking from my personal experiences in toxic relationships, whether it be military experience, just current life, past life lessons, stuff like that. So I want to get that out of the way. If you want to know more about my credentials or resume, we will talk about that as you guys have questions and stuff like that. So this is my opinion. Do I think Amber Heard should be charged for perjury for all the lies? I absolutely do. And if I'm not mistaken, Amber Heard has a perjury case pending in the UK or in Australia, possibly both. I think the perjury trial in Australia comes from taking the dogs on the flight when she claims, again, not out of Amber Heard style, she claims that Amber's assistant is the one that fumbled the ball on that one, right? So we don't want to necessarily tread as YouTube commentators, especially those that don't have the ability to defend ourselves in court proceedings, per se. I would stand no chance in a situation where Amber Heard sued me for defamation. Like, I'm not Johnny Depp, and I can't afford to go in there and be like, look, I'm just a guy on YouTube, please don't fuck my whole life up or something like that. So I am talking to you all as the layman that I am. Do we expect the jury? I am actually going to, I halfway expect the jury to make a deliberation or a decision today. Here's why. We've got Memorial Day coming up on Monday. Memorial Day is a time where people want to, obviously, if you're in the veteran community like myself, you mourn past friends that you've lost and, people in your family and people that you know that have dedicated their life to military service and paid the ultimate sacrifice, right? And they've passed away. And I will just take a second to make the distinction between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Memorial Day is for people that have served in the military that are no longer with us. Veterans Day is for those that are still here. Hi, this is Tasha. Sorry for the other screen name. It's my kids. It's all good. Puppies like. It's all good. I get it. No problem. I think that they very well could come back with a verdict today. Here's the thing. Now, I don't know what time zone you guys are in. I'm in Central Standard Time, so it's 2:04 my time. Where they are in Virginia, it's an hour ahead of me. So it's 3:04 their time. They break court, I believe it's 5 o'clock every day. It's always 4 o'clock my time. So they've essentially got 2.5 hours. I would not be shocked if they came back. Now, you heard what the judge said. So even if they went back there and immediately came back and go, okay, we have our decision, we won't know for another hour because they're going to give an hour gap to let press know, let teams know to come back to the courtroom, right? So is there a likelihood of us hearing the verdict today? No. It ran down significantly when Amber's team pressed the end of their time. And we're gonna edge our way up to the closing arguments. We're getting there. We're getting there. Do I think Amber is going to suffer more legal wrath than just this case? To answer Jessica Myron's question, yes. I think due to the high public spectacle that this became, there are many people who had plenty of reasons to have disdain for Amber Heard, and they probably had quite a few reasons to actually kind of build up a case against her in a sense, and they were just waiting for the reason. Now, in Australia's case, I think this was a situation where she said something, someone said something that tipped them off, where we went, got her. That was under a court of law. That was under testimony. That was under oath. Got her. Right? So then we get to today. I want to get to today because that's where we are. We started the day off with Ben Chu with Camille Vasquez doing the closing statements for Johnny Depp. Nobody who's watched this trial seriously was not excited for this. Camille Vasquez single-handedly dismantled every single thing that Amber Heard had said. She proved the fake pictures. She proved, what didn't she touch on? She brought up the pictures of the incident. She absolutely destroyed Amber Heard's case. And that is all I can really say simply. Everything that we've seen Amber say, thank you so much for being a part of the live, Angie. It means a lot to me. If you guys don't mind, hit the thumbs up button for me. You guys are always welcome. If you want to support me, and help the channel grow, you guys can hit a super chat. Super chats mean that they pop up. You pick how much you want to put towards a super chat. It'll pop up in a big bold thing, and it'll be asked in a super chat question, and it'll be featured up in the comment section. And it kind of highlights it. We don't have a ton of people where I'm missing comments at this point, but if we were at that stage, when we grow and we get there, it's just an easier way, for it to stand out, so I'll read it. Is there any news on Amber in Australia with dog trafficking or any plan of more court proceedings after this? To my understanding, my limited knowledge of being a layman checking the internet, Australia is pursuing Amber for legal ramifications. Because, I don't know if it was the assistant, if it was something Amber said, but something that somebody said implied Amber knew she was not supposed to take those dogs on the plane. She was told by her assistant, don't do that. There's so much paperwork, and here's why. Just let's start here, and then we'll get to the closing arguments. Because now that I got us down this wormhole, I owe it to you guys to finish it out, and then I'll answer the questions, and we'll get to questions. Okay. Australia. So, Amber,
so
Johnny,
much
you got
time
these two
over
little
these
dogs.
last
We've heard
several
about them.
weeks to
Amber
listen to
Turd,
Mr. Depp,
shit on the bed. She blamed it
to
on
his
the dogs.
friends,
She's got
to
these
his
two
family,
little teacup
and to so
Yorkie
many others
dogs.
who have come forward.
She was told
physically
that they were going
in
to
this
Australia.
courtroom, some
They
from
planned
a
to
very
take
long distance,
the. I don't know why this is
to
still
tell
playing
you the truth.
court feed. I have everything on
And
my
to
end shut
finally,
down, so
after
I'm
so
sorry for
many
that.
years,
I'm trying not to
to
get
correct the
copyright
record.
here, but
As
I don't
Ms.
think I'm
Vasquez
doing a
said,
very good job of that.
you have now come to know the real Amber Heard.
Let's try again.
Scary. We
Australia.
also told you at the start of this trial that you were going to come
I
to
know.
know
I'm
the
trying to get
real
it shut off
Johnny
now,
Depp.
so that way I don't get
Not
copywritten.
the many
Hopefully
characters
it'll
you've
shut off
seen
here in
him
just a
play
second.
so wonderfully
Sorry about
in the
that.
movies.
Let's
But the
see if I
man
can just do
himself,
this for now.
we kept that promise. You've met the real Johnny Depp. You have heard that Mr. Depp came from humble, very
Hopefully it'll
difficult
shut off
beginnings.
here in a second, because they are.
You
They're
have
gonna nab
heard
me
from
for
Mr.
that.
Depp's big sister, who's here in the courtroom.
There. How's that? Better. At least it's shut off on my end. Australia, she has the two dogs. She was told that they have to go to Australia for some reason. They tell her, you cannot do that. Let's get into this very quickly because it's hella important. Australia does not play about their biosphere, their habitats, their things like that. Y'all, they don't play. In the most serious way that I've ever understood a country to protect their habitats and their wildlife, Australia does not play. If you even hear of Australia, what's the first thing you hear of other than kangaroos and koalas? And throwing a shrimp on the barbie. The crazy, dangerous animals they have. So they will do every single thing. All right, thank you so much, Puppy's like, I appreciate that. It's gone. Jessica, thank you. Everything they have there, they value. Why? Tourism. It brings people there. People, dumb like me, show up and go, oh, I want to see a kangaroo. And they get on a fucking thing and they go, look, I see one. And then they talk like an Australian for a week and they get a dumbass Indiana Jones hat and then we go home. We would not do that if we didn't have a chance to go see some koalas high on eucalyptus, chilling in a tree. So what they don't want is Amber Heard and herself to bring her two Yorkie dogs that are not familiar to this environment, and it goes and takes a shit somewhere, and a kangaroo smells it, breathes it in, and now there's this infectious disease that kills all the fucking kangaroos. That's dramatic, but that's how serious they are about this. So they say, Amber, it's going to be tough. You're not going to be able to do this. They have all these requirements for you to bring these dogs. It takes like 6 months. You guys are leaving in 2 weeks. It's not going to happen. Don't do it, Amber. They think that Amber's not going to listen. They tell Johnny, you got to tell her, dude, they are not playing. They said no. So Johnny's like, Amber, don't do it. Now, again, this is hearsay. I don't know this for a fact. I'm telling you what I understand the story to be. Johnny takes his plane, goes to Australia. Amber, separate plane, with the dogs, gets on, goes to Australia. Gets there, everyone's like, Amber, what the hell? We told you don't do this shit. They stashed the dogs at a groomer. Somebody recognized them as Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's dogs. That's a problem. Somebody notifies the Australian authorities, and the dogs are essentially held. Australian authorities, understanding it's Johnny Depp's dogs, tell him, you get these fucking dogs out of here now, or I'm going to euthanize them. I'm going to kill these dogs. Get them out of here. So apparently, Johnny has to fly these dogs back. Okay. Amber claims her assistant never tells her that she's not allowed to do this, so that's why she did it. Again, pawning all responsibility off on someone else. Apparently during this trial, or somewhere throughout, someone told that, and Australia picked up on it, saw it as credible, and they destroyed the entire thing, and now they've got a perjury charge pending against Amber Heard. There's that. Closing arguments. Camille crushed it. Ben Chu comes up and says, I'm not so good with the technicalities. It was kind of cute. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of cute. Camille takes her pack off and helps Ben Chu put his sound pack on. It was very cute. Then, and again, the courtroom's not allowed to give Camille a standing ovation, but damn it, we all wanted to. She just, again, the way she perfectly summed up what we've all instinctually already knew, it just made you feel good inside to watch it, right? So then Ben Chu comes up, and we love Ben Chu. Ben Chu, you're great at what you do. Sorry for rhyming. And he gives us the less emotional, more factual. Amber Heard lied. Here's the stats to show it. We got the emotional side. Here's the stats side now. Going to have to rejoin in a bit. Thank you. I appreciate it, Kelly. Cam, your trial coverage has been awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Kelly. Love you too. Sending you all the love, and I will talk to you soon. Ben Chu just comes in, lays down the law, and he establishes the very important aspects of the trial. You can use your common sense to see that Amber Heard has been doctoring pictures. No one is willing to testify for her other than her sister, and even they can't get their story straight. What are some key points made that stick out to you? One of them, for me, was the comment about her burning bridges and the people who showed up were former friends and paid experts. Hey, Angie, divine timing at work here, because that's a perfect segue. Is exactly what I'm saying. The key point of that is a huge one, guys, because that's exactly where Ben Chu was in the part of the closing arguments that I was just talking about, which is he's saying, look who showed up. Amber Heard's got her sister, who looked stressed, right? She looked stressed, which understandable. She's testifying. She told a different story than what her sister told, which was odd. No friends claim or want to claim that they're still friends with her. They're all of Ptsd character and moral objectivity, as you had no problem having the party role of the hanger-on and enjoying the penthouses and the alcohol and the weed and the hanging out with Johnny Depp stories. But now when it actually has implications to be loyal to Amber Heard, now suddenly you're not. That, to me, rings red flags all over the place. Also, none of them still want to be associated with her. That's big. Johnny has all of his friends, all of his security guards, romantic relationships, including Kate Moss from years and years and years back, 20, 30, 40 some years back for some of these people, are willing to stand there. And this is where I've been saying this for the last couple of days. We have to look at the quality of witness that was put up on the stand. Just ask yourself, in the same way that Ben Chu, or I think it was Rottenborn as well, asked the jury to use common sense, just use your intuitive nature that you have as a human being. When Isaac Baruch talked, you felt genuine about what he was saying. When Johnny Depp talked, you felt genuine about what Johnny was saying. He wasn't trying to recall a fabricated tale. He was just speaking about his experience. That's it. When some of the experts for Johnny Depp took the stand, we saw professionalism. We saw distinct proclamations of fact and founded research. When Amber Heard's experts took the stand, we had to trust Amber Heard's story, which, if anybody has forgotten, Amber Heard's story is her story is the truth, which is that Johnny Depp did all these terrible things. The police, her lawyer team, Johnny Depp, his law team, doctors, nurses, every witness, including her sister, including Dr. Hughes. Who else? Oh, the owner and founder of the Hillbilly Fucktown or whatever that place was called. All these different people, everyone that we've seen, again, including her sister, including her own legal team, are liars. So this is essentially the question that Amber Heard put back to the jury. Are you going to believe me, or are you going to believe everyone else that you've ever seen in this trial, including my own legal team? Because we haven't even gotten to the point yet. Do you think she will go after Waldman? I think she is going after Waldman for sure. That's what this countersuit is about. Is she's claiming that Waldman and Johnny Depp defamed her. So we'll find out at the end of this trial whether that's going to have any merit going forward. Yo, Cam, when will we get a verdict? Don't know. I would love to see one at the end of the day. I can tell you that this stream will go for about another hour to an hour and a half. If you guys keep going, keep bringing it strong, keep smashing the like button, keep bringing good questions, then we're going to keep it going as long as we can. But I'm going to jump off here about 4 o'clock to go get the kiddo. The one whose tweet statement got Johnny here in the first place. Yeah, Adam Waldman got him into the countersuit for sure. Here's the thing. So we talked about Amber Heard's witnesses. We talked about Johnny Depp's witnesses. The long-term friendship thing means a lot to me. Even as an addict, which I am. Those of you that don't know, I was, struggled with alcohol for years. I've got 3 DUIs, spent some time in jail, and, that's why my show is called the Road to Redemption Podcast. I was in toxic relationships for years, so I can connect with a lot of things. One of the things I connect the most with was that laugh, which a lot of us heard today again, and were unsettled by again. When Amber Heard, and this is just going to talk about the probability of Amber Heard losing, right? Amber Heard's stance at the very end is, I'm an American and I have a First Amendment right to tell my story. Okay. So anytime over the last, we'll say 25 years, I'm 30 years old and I'm a kid who knew life before the internet and I've seen it since. Okay? So anytime that we have seen a story go completely viral, that really started with Pam and Tommy. What did I say? Tom, right? Pam and Tommy. Yeah, I said that, right? That's a fucking tongue twister. That blew everything up on a level that everyone started making opinions and speculations about stuff. But they didn't have any foundation, right? The First Amendment, right, Sparsh is saying this perfectly. The First Amendment does not cover defamation because the internet has yet to learn this the hard way. Yes, as an American, the government will not show up to your house to lock you away, probably, for things that you say if you are not making a direct threat to someone's life, security, or whatever. Got it? Saying things still has ramifications for it. So, yes, you can say whatever you want. That does not mean you are free from ramifications or repercussions for the things you say. We see this all the time in bomb threats, airport threats, security threats all over the place. We see it that people say things and go, oh, I was just joking. There was a trial that just recently happened within the last 5 to 10 years where a girl was trying to influence her boyfriend, we'll say, to commit suicide. He was in mental health struggle, And he kept saying he was going to commit suicide, and she's egging him on. Why don't you just do it already? Why don't you just do it already? Well, he ends up doing it. And for the first time, someone is held liable for texting someone, berating comments about how they should commit these terrible acts against themselves. And she's going, well, I should be able to say that in the heat of our relationship. You don't know what this is like. Right? So if you get online, and I always try to be very careful of this, especially in these trials. I got a little nervous with it when I covered the Rittenhouse trial, because I'm speaking from a place of, I was an MP at the time, when I was talking about Rittenhouse. I was an MP in the Army, and I was trained very well and often with tactical firearms, which he carried during that case, and was trained on escalations and de-escalations of force and how to, look for those, and more importantly, how to articulate why you do those things, and prepared to have to do that possibly in court, because I was in Guantanamo Bay, a very highly, scrutinized place. So every action you took, you had to be ready to be accountable for it. That's where a lot of this comes from me. So, again, very simply, with Amber's claim at First Amendments. Sure, Amber, you can say that Johnny did all these terrible things, but, as Ben Chu pointed out, if you claim you have the right to say that, which, sure, as an American, you have the right, but you also have the right to be heard in court if you're a lying piece of shit, and Johnny is able to gather the conceding evidence strong enough for a jury or a court to hear his case and see that it should be seen by a jury of his peers and evaluated that way, which they did, which means it's valid. Okay. This is where I get irritated, because I have to be careful for defamation and things like that. As we see, Amber's on his trail, probably trying to recoup some money she's fixing to lose. Amber Heard very clearly, let me answer some of these questions and maybe it'll spin me into what I'm about to say. The one, yep, saw that. Oh, that laugh must be a huge trigger for so many. I really think it was. That laugh is sickening. And if you've ever been with a narcissist, if you've ever been with someone who has toxic control issues over the people that they're in relationships with, you know that laugh pretty well. In your opinion, do you think that if and when Amber loses, she will explode in front of everyone? No, I don't think she will. Here's the thing. I'm down, Danny. I'm down to play fan fiction. And let's call this segment of the show, for legal reasons, fan fiction. So anytime one of our awesome contributors gives us a topic, we can play what's called fan fiction, which, what do you guys know about fan fiction online? I can take a Harry Potter story and the basics of that story, and I can create a fan fiction story out of that and completely change the story to exactly what I want it to be. So it's essentially playing out a hypothetical situation with basic foundation of, based on a true story, essentially. Dramatized. Is there a reason Amber would have a benefit to explode in front of everyone the second people say, guilty? We see Johnny Depp to be awarded $17 million. And Amber goes, fuck! In a big, fuck me, Jesus! And she starts smashing shit. Here's why that would benefit her. She's facing at least one litigation that I know of. If there's any more, she could then claim that the result of this trial and going through this trial actually caused her to fucking snap, where she may not be able to withstand trial going forward, at least until she's been evaluated further. Now again, we know Amber's is good to create, a dramatic story and whatever. Do I think Amber has the acting skills to pull that off? No. I don't. I think if you guys have ever seen 8 Crazy Nights with Adam Sandler, there's a character in the movie that anytime, I forget why he does it, but if he doesn't want to do something, he just fakes a heart attack. And he's go, oh, I'm having another heart attack. That would kind of be what Amber Heard would have to do. They'd be like, Amber Heard, guilty. And she'd go, huh. It'd just fall over. And then you'd see the eye come up and go, does anybody give a fuck? And then you just see her get back up in her chair and be like, damn, nobody even cared that I faked to have a heart attack in the middle of the courtroom. But no, I mean, again, outside of claiming that this case caused her to go nuts and her being found guilty caused an actual mental snap or a nervous breakdown, no, I don't think she would. I think if there's going to be a public explosion, I think right now she's so neck deep in lawyers that everyone is protecting her from doing that. It may be from the time she exits the courtroom to the time getting in the vehicle, she's not under like testimony, so she could be like blah, 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 and spurt out all this shit that then she could be like, oh, it was just the passion of afterwards. It's the first time in a long time she would be speaking not under testimony. So, there's that. Let's see. You would be liable for a lawsuit and the court decides how much in damage you owe them. Yes. And again, in a lot of cases, I think if Amber is awarded anything over like $1 million, I don't think she's going to be able to pay that. And Johnny knows that. So the chances of Johnny Depp actually physically collecting liquidated funds from this, very low. Because Amber doesn't have it, and she's not going to have it. Right? So it's like, this is all just a public win for Johnny. That's just a public win for Johnny. Let's see. It would be incredible. Yes, it would be fun. You would be, we got that. I remember that trial. She might as well have did it herself. Yeah, that was bad. That was a bad trial. If you guys remember that girl and that poor teenage couple, and we can talk about toxic, young love, and I think a lot of that stems into relationships like what we see here with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. But yeah, that was a very bad trial. That was one that for me, I watched that one from a very far distance. It was kind of like the Gabby Petito trial where I didn't really get a chance to check out Gabby Petito. I think it was similar to the Rittenhouse trial time, and I was so locked into that one. Or maybe it was the Travis Scott incident. I don't know. My eyes were set on something else, and there was so much going on. She hadn't been found yet. That's why I got lost in that one. But yeah, there's been a few trials that really break my heart. And there was the one that never went to trial. I'm not going to bring that one up. Just because, again, I never saw any litigation on that one. So there's too much to be speculated on. Let's see. Do you think that she will get locked up for perjury? Again, I think that Australia could do the world a bit of redemption if they pulled all their Australian resources together to make sure that Amber Heard sees some time for that perjury charge. We'll see. We'll see. If she is found to have defamed JD, what fallback do you think she will have, if any? It's really upsetting when someone can do so. Yeah, the fallback is, I think already Amber Heard's career is over. Amber Heard's reputation is shot. Only because regardless of the verdict of this trial, and that's kind of what I was talking about yesterday, and there's no real way that Johnny Depp loses. Everyone who has paid attention to this case at all, who has eyeballs and ears, knows what happened. Per the evidence. Now, were we there? Do we 1,000% know what happened? No. We saw the way the evidence that we have that is admissible by law in court was presented. We saw the factual timelines, the way things turned out, pictures before, pictures after, and we got the full scope. And this is why it is so important that cancel culture online is ended effective immediate with the verdict of this case, because for the first time an allegation was made, a person was attempted to be canceled, and on a public stage, as public as the defamation, as the cancel attempt was, the trial was to go, here's the fucking context that no one gets in cancel culture situations. Here it is, for the first time ever, context. And then the whole world tunes in. Oh shit, we ain't never seen context before. We're used to headlines and clickbait articles. We do not know nothing about context. Let me get some of that context. The only time I can find context is when someone's listening to the Joe Rogan Experience around me. Let me get some context. Not only let me get it, I'm either working remotely or hate my fucking job. Let me tune in with all my power to this Johnny Depp trial. Why? Not only for all those other reasons I just stated, but most of us connect to it on a heart and soul level. We've been in a relationship that through the evidence, through the sound recordings, through the laughing, cackling, whatever's, the lies, the manipulations, the gaslighting, the everything, you have seen a part of your life unfold in this trial, where, like I've said in previous contents that I've made on other platforms, which is watching this trial has been like watching the Netflix series of your own life for some of us. That laugh didn't just come from Amber Heard. That laugh could be created by a sound engineer and labeled as pure evil, because so many people have heard that laugh come from so many different mouths. But it is pure evil. It's an attempt at control. It's a deterioration of the mind being verbally manifest into the world. And it's pure evil. I don't have to reiterate that anymore. Those that hear it, you know. And if you don't, stay the fuck away from me. Because that means you have no insight, intuition, or ability to read a human being if you can listen to that laugh and it doesn't do a serious number on your gut, your chest, your limbs, your brain, everything. It just, woo. Let's keep going with the questions. Fair, not the consequences. Her op-eds speak volumes because the evidence clearly shows she abused him, but she never puts that in her op-eds. Angie, you nailed it, right? So you nailed it as far as the defamation goes. She wrote, in an attempt to gain popularity during the Me Too movement, she participated, co-collaborated in an article with the Washington Post that read she was a victim of sexual violence and domestic violence at the hands of one of her partners. And obviously everyone knew who that was, and because, again, other things documented, pictures and set up events, she made very sure that people knew why she was writing this article. I think where the frustrating part is, where we all have to hang in frustration, is the part with the title about the sexual violence. Now, we know, and we've heard Amber Heard claim that he sexually was abusive to her in the confines of their relationship. She claims that. She had never claimed that prior to her deposition. So she was making the claim that sexual violence was added as she was already trying to further validate an orchestrated narrative that she was painting by going down to the courthouse and getting the TRO and filing, having TMZ there and all these things. What you're seeing is someone who had a plan, a long-term plan, which is not something I think people are able to give Amber Heard credit for, which is that she may be an evil genius. We don't want to call her a genius, but she may be an evil genius who is able to play the long-term in the way of she knows how to manipulate people. She knows how to use them. She knows how to see and get close enough, probably using her, features and however they appeal to people, we'll put it that way, to gain access to different parts and vulnerabilities in people's lives. And then what does she do? She finds a way to make it hers. How can I get what you have? Because why? I'm not willing to go and invest in acting classes and be the next Scarlett Johansson and be a star in movies that I can stand on my own in movies. I want to ride off the person I'm in a relationship with, whether it be Johnny Depp, Elon Musk, whoever else she's dated that's famous. Or I need to be this second lead and get help getting this role because why? I can't form chemistry with one of the most lovable men in Hollywood. So again, Amber, it's your lawyers, it's doctors, it's nurses, it's police, it's Johnny, it's Johnny's team, it's your team, it's the person at the Hillbilly Golf Emporium or wherever the hell y'all stayed. It's the person everywhere. So I was asked this question when I was deep in my alcoholism. When you look around and people are constantly always leaving your life and you're always making reasons, that guy's an asshole. She's an asshole. They're assholes. We don't fuck with them anymore. And you're doing this over an extended period of time. Eventually people are going to go, hey, yo, it might be you. You ever think about that? You ever think that many people probably aren't assholes? Have you ever considered that? There are assholes in this world. I'm not here to say that there's not. But have you ever imagined that either you keep saying you attract assholes? Well, what do magnets do? They attract. If you maybe don't carry yourself as an asshole, and if you don't play everyone in your life like they're stupid, and you don't try to gaslight people at every turn for your own benefit, maybe you might get some more quality people in your life. And then if you are willing to maybe take some criticism or maybe take a little sit down and go, hey, Amber, we're not making the best choices here, you might then grow. And you may stop making these decisions. And you might make a different choice to maybe improve yourself instead of try to tear other people down. And then what might happen? Oh, things might actually work out for you. Not the person you're in a relationship with, but you. Let's get back to the questions. For the first time today, I actually saw her put on a cry face during closing arguments. Yeah, and she did that at the most off-putting time, right? Like, you had all this time, and now all of a sudden you want to really try to turn it on while they're telling your closing arguments? You got to get out of here, man. This is me trying to be in the midst of a juror. The question that I would ask myself in regards to malicious intent based off evidence presented. Yeah, 1,000%. Yes, context. Thanks goodness for the saving light. Yes, 100%. Dude, the verdict is about to come in 2 minutes. I don't know about that. How long will the decision take on? It could take 20 minutes. It literally could. Like Spash said, I've got it here if it is. I don't know if that's an official thing, but yeah, I'm with you, Sparsh. I definitely think it shouldn't take, but if it was me, 2 seconds. We walk in. As soon as the door clicks, once they name, because again, guys, there is a process to this. So they're going to go in, they're going to name like the main juror who's going to speak for the jury. So even that alone is going to take some time. But once they have that, they go, all right, yo, we good here? How much are we trying to give him? Let's start 200 million. Nope, too high for you? Okay. 100 million. Everybody's good with that? 100 million. Let's tell them. Break. And let's get back out there. It would be that easy for me. I think they would be feeling like they didn't do their responsibility justice as a jury if you didn't at least sit down together, now that you're allowed to talk about it, read the jury instructions, ask, does anyone have any questions? Is anyone started on anything? You know, never mind, wrong information, I was baited. Yeah, no, it's probably not coming in today. As much as we would all love it to, and I could totally see it, again, we're now at 3:39 their time. So they've got an hour and a half until the court day is going to be over, right? Now, like in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, the judge, when they were in deliberation, asked them, do you want to stay another 30 minutes? Do you think you could figure this out in an hour, 2 hours? We could stay longer. That's kind of up to the judge. I don't know if they have that set in place or not. So, again, we could find out at any moment. But as of right now, we don't have anything. I would love to see it today. But again, the judge just said that when she knows, it's going to be an hour before everyone else knows. And they're back in the courtroom. So I don't think that even logistically they have the time. I think also this is just good for business. For a lot of people, it does a lot of people good to stretch this thing out past Memorial Day. Now, they were talking about being there Monday. I don't know how that works. Memorial Day is Monday. I assume they were not going to be there. The makeup in court looked more like bruises than her damn evidence. I agree. I was screaming that from the beginning. She knows what she was doing. I can promise you, especially as a female, we will have all the receipts to back up. Yeah, for sure. The best way it's put, wherever you go, there you are. Straight up. Never mind. Wrong information. Yeah, her bruises were from the Botox. I agree. I'm with you on that as well. Guys, Amber Heard very clearly set out on a course to destroy Johnny Depp and tarnish his legacy for her own gain. She just, here's her biggest mistake. She saw a Johnny Depp that was aging. She was figuring that she would probably be able to use her looks and her whatever to gain his fandom and gain his lustful, obvious, impulsive attention. She then did what good manipulators and narcissists do, and they love bomb you and make you feel like you're the most special thing in the world, and so much so that you're willing to, leave your wife and kids like he did. And then what happens once she gets what she wants? She was all well and good, and they got married, and then got what I want. Money, checks should be cash because we were married. Now, 15 months later, divorce. You beat me, sexual, all this, blah, 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 and you're like, yo, what? And you just have to ask, like, where did it come from? And then you really have the nerve to sit up on the stand and act like Johnny Depp groomed you as a young Hollywood actress to try to stay on the Me Too movement timeline, that you were not only physically assaulted, sexually assaulted, emotionally abused, groomed at a young age from a man like double your age. But again, you're not supposed to be held responsible for any of your decision making. I find that hard. I find it hard that once you're over the age of 18 and you move out of your parents' house and you start getting into relationships with people, you're responsible for the things you do. I think what's crazy to me is that there are people who will believe her just to believe her. In my opinion, if I was being abused and sustained as much injury that she claimed, I'd have a plethora of evidence. I'd take pictures of everything. She literally has nothing, absolutely nothing. I use social media a lot, and it was so easy to see how her photos of abuse were edited straight up. I'm with you as a content creator. I could back that as well. Even back in 2016, when the original allegations were made, I never believed her because she seemed disingenuous. Thank you, MCREEMEM. I don't know how to pronounce that. I appreciate you so much. Vicky, mental health is in this country is such an extreme issue. Yes, it is, Vicky. Thank you, and I appreciate you being here. Let's talk about the mental health aspect of this case, shall we? Again, I am speaking as a mental health advocate. I am an advocate for mental health. My entire life, I lived with a question in my head, right? That question was, why can everyone else seem to control what goes on in their mind, their thoughts, their decisions, their actions, their negative thoughts, and how can people be so happy all the time? And why am I constantly so not happy? And when I am happy, I have to do things like drink or use drugs or be impulsive to find any sort of actual legitimate happiness. It wasn't until I was 26 years old that I even was introduced to the term mental health. Okay? So I grew up, as a kid that was seen as troubled. Attention was hard to stay on something for very long. I got in some trouble when I was young, and like I told you, after my military service and some years of alcoholism and drug use, I've in toxic relationships and stuff, I ended up at 27 years old being diagnosed with PTSD, bipolar 1. I have medical grade anxiety, certified. It sucks. And, my BP1 renders me manic depressive. And I have severe depression. So I understand mental health, and I've taken it as my life calling to understand mental health in the best way that I can for my own healing. Because for the first time in 2016, when I learned that mental health struggles were a thing, it added an understanding to what I was going through, that for the first time in my life at 26 years old, there was nothing wrong with me, right? That's what I thought. That's what I've been told my whole life. I was too emotional. I was too passionate. I cared too much, and I couldn't let things go. I never knew when to let the fun die, or I never knew when to just let it go and let people move on with their lives or whatever it is. I was always seen as too extreme, but my response to people was, well, I think other people are too extreme, right? When you love someone, you should fight for them. And you should fight for them with every ounce in your heart. When you're mad at someone, right? Now, I don't agree with this in my older age, but you should fight for justice and you should seek your revenge. Again, I don't agree with that in my older age. My older age is, hey, let people be who they are. You know, revenge doesn't solve anything. Speak your truth and let it be what it is. But that's, I think, again, where Johnny Depp is with all this. But we're talking about the correlations in Johnny Depp's life of he came from a rough upbringing. His mom was severely abusive to him, talked down to him all the time. Apparently, Amber Heard's parents abused her and Whitney as well. We didn't get as much detail on that, and I'm not sure why. Especially if they are since passed, you would think that they would be more willing to open up about it now, as it would pertain to Cptsd possible symptoms that she may have, not Ptsd symptoms that she has as pertinent to Johnny Depp. Understand? Okay. Cptsd, complex PTSD, is something that you can form, or the symptoms of it, that you can form over an extended period of time exposed to trauma. So if your upbringing is that you're constantly neglected, yelled at, smacked, abused, traumatized, over a span of times, your fight or flights, your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system will fall out of whack. Over an extended period of time, you will learn how to survive through your individual situation, whatever that is, and you will respond accordingly. So it may be at a certain time every single day, your body goes into full panic mode, even though you're 10 years removed from that. Well, for 15 to 18 years, your body freaked out at 8 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. because that's when you had to go around your abusive parent. So even, again, 10 years removed, at 3 o'clock every day you're doing one of these numbers, and someone's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And you're like, you see, And again, you don't really know how to articulate it, because in that moment, you didn't just think, my dad thought my dad was going to come and smack the shit out of me or something. It's a part of who you become, right? It's an unbalance of how a healthy, well-balanced person would be reacting to situations, right? Then you have PTSD, which comes from an instance. So a lot of times it's attributed to veterans when they're in a specific firefight. The stigma of PTSD comes that a veteran goes on a 9-month deployment and comes back with PTSD. Well, over the span of a 9-month deployment for most units, not special forces, not super wartime specialist guys, regular ass units, most 9-month deployments are not filled with daily, weekly action of combats and the shit you see in the movies. Most are relatively boring and standard. So, in the event when a serious firefight happens, and again, a firefight, or you engage, you disengage, you move down the road, and it's a whole day of this, that is where you could be seen as PTSD, because it's an instance that you can go, whole shit, I wasn't ready for that, we got ambushed, and you can articulate what happened and what you survived through, that your body had to go into a certain response that now you're having a hard time not being able to go through. Again, this is not something that happened to you your whole life. There's a reason that they specify the two. So Amber Heard claims that she has PTSD from Johnny Depp's abuse. Well, that right there doesn't make sense, because you could say I have PTSD from, and then state an instance, right? Had she said that and then said I have PTSD from her alleged Australia incident with the bottle and all this, and then laid that out in that way, that would have made more sense, because it's an isolated incident saying she has PTSD from that. She could have also, had she known what the fuck she was talking about, said I have Cptsd-like symptoms which carry through my childhood, which brought me up to when Johnny Depp shouted at me. That's why I started, with the survival, fight or flight, abandonment. I couldn't get out of it, and then my impulsivity took over, and that's when I got violent. Now again, she's still responsible for her actions, right? She's not irresponsible for her actions but she is irresponsible. She's not responsible for her actions because she now could articulate a little better that she's struggling from Cptsd and possible PTSD symptoms from each and every coordinating event. Let's not get it fucked up. If someone was, Johnny Depp wasn't, but if someone was coming home, screaming at you, throwing bottles at you, right? And if they were taunting you, and then, of course, if they were sexually assaulting you, you would and could have PTSD from that single event. Then if there was multiple single events, you could be furthering the trauma on each. But once you have one event, well, okay, then you could be classified as having PTSD. When you have a long string of events over time causing trauma, you would then have Cptsd. Those two things can bump into each other. They did not have the ability to articulate that. Again, a lot of that falls off when they were unwilling to get into Amber's upbringing. Because again, maybe you would have to validate some of that, but Johnny didn't have to validate any of the abuse he claimed his mom put him through. But we all believed it. Why wouldn't we? I even believed it when Amber and Whitney said it. Let me get to some questions here. Okay, got that. She literally has nothing, absolutely nothing, got that. And back in 2016, got that. Yes, it is. The case is a good insight into being in a relationship with a lot of drug abuse and fragile mental health on both sides. Yes, Vicky, I agree. You bring up a good point about that. They never got into her past with her childhood abuse. Maybe it would fall into with the Dr. Hughes assessment in conflict with her case. It absolutely would. Because again, then you would have to see that she already was struggling with Cptsd symptoms. But this is why that would cause such an issue for her PTSD symptoms. Just like when I went through my mental health assessment with the VA. They're going to go look for evidence. They want to see what you claim happened. Did it happen? Why? We're about to compensate you for that shit. We are not going to give you a paycheck for a disability if we can't prove you have it. Now, is it possible for you to go out, now not in a veteran situation unless you hire a lawyer to come in and, legally appeal the decision they gave against you, but in Amber Heard's situation, you can pay enough money to a forensic expert to come in with the proper forms, well, technically improper forms because she's a fucking idiot, but the forms that we'll use the term ignorant person or lay person who wouldn't know the process, and you go, here's some forms I filled out half-assedly to say that Amber Heard has PTSD. Yeah, which event did you evaluate that on? I didn't. I took her word from it. You took her word on what? The events. You took her word on the events for PTSD. Yeah. Hey, Dr. Hughes, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Huh? She said she was abused when she was a kid. Yeah, I wrote that in as a note. Did you expand on that? Didn't see it pertinent. In a PTSD assessment, you didn't see her. Okay. Why? Only because that may cause alarm to the fact that she could have CPTSD as a kid. Like I said, that doesn't rule out that Johnny Depp couldn't cause her to have PTSD now, had he actually done the alleged things. Again, I don't think he did. So then Dr. Hughes wants to talk about, well, I filled out this, and I filled out that, and I filled out this, and I filled out that. And she went through and she hand-jammed some things off to the side. The point that Dr. Hughes lost was the box that said, what happened? Hey, I don't give a fuck if you're a second grader. If a conflict arises and the principal calls you and the other person into the office, what's the first thing they're going to ask? What happened? Why? It's the whole fucking context of the story. You kind of need that. So you said, I put that down in my notes. So your notes, while I'm not discrediting what a mental health professional's notes, the validity that those can hold, while I don't believe they're admissible, maybe they are. I don't know if the jury has Dr. Hughes' notes. But I know they've got that form that's incomplete. Let's get to Dr. Spiegel, where he claimed Johnny Depp, because he was famous, that alone would imply that he wants fame and admiration and, people to think highly of him, when it's been pretty well known throughout Johnny Depp's career he likes to stay out of the limelight as much as possible. Okay? So you're already implying a trait on someone that doesn't stick. Got it? Then he wants to talk about, love bombing and stuff like that. Okay? So Johnny Depp being a hopeless romantic is now a narcissistic personality type trait. Got it. And then, as Dr. Curry so professionally pointed out, due to the Goldwater rule, you are not supposed to even mention that without having done an assessment on him, which you didn't do. Whether you offered to do one on him or not does not mean that you actually did it. So then when it was brought up that you violated the Goldwater rule, you just deferred to, well, again, Dr. Spiegel was never called back to the stand, but Dr. Hughes was questioned as to how she violated the Goldwater rule and acted unethically, and also, it was kind of caveated that Dr. Spiegel had as well. She just goes, it doesn't apply to me because I filled out some forms that didn't fit here, and therefore I made the proper assessments to say what I said. Also, I believed the person that I was speaking to, who I was paid to speak to. And therefore, what I say is an extension of what she says, even though she's not a professional and I am. I found the right amount of check blocks for the right amount of dollars that says the result she wants to say. Will Dr. Hughes be dislicensed for this? I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. Dr. Spiegel, possibly. That was bad. I can tell you, as far as Dr. Hughes being the president-elect of the American Psychological Association or whatever, I think that's trash. For anybody to stand up there and act like she knew more than everyone else in that courtroom, that she had seen some special evidence that everyone else hadn't seen, that's the same thing Amber Heard tried to imply, if you guys don't remember. She implied that there was evidence that her legal team had withheld from the jury from admitting. She goes, well, there was some pictures I'd have liked you to seen, implying that there was pictures that they hadn't seen. Guys, that's gaslighting. To imply that something exists that doesn't exist, to try to confuse someone and go, oh, fuck, does that exist? No, Amber, if it existed, we would have seen it in court. What else do I really have to explain about that? You cannot, let me say this again, you cannot just claim something and then go, because my name is Amber Heard, you have to believe me under a count of law. Why is it so important to kind of circle back around? If we don't get some more questions, I'll probably wrap it up here. We circle back around to, can you say whatever you want constitutionally? Yes, you can. If you choose to say something and try to gain your status, and this is something I think people on YouTube need to learn quite a bit of, if you can fix or escalate your status online by talking negatively about someone else, a lot of people are willing to engage in that. If that person chooses to stand up and sue you in court, like I believe it was Cardi B just did over a YouTuber that claimed she had a STD or something during one of her live streams and said it as a joke or something like that, or just said it just to say it. And due to this, Cardi B got quite some negative publicity. Well, she sued her for defamation and she won quite a bit of money, like millions, from this random YouTuber who's never going to be able to pay it. Your words have consequences. Again, it's nice to be able to turn these microphones on and create a brand and make a cool intro and add some music and call yourself a personality. It's cool. In fear of quoting Spider-Man, you guys know what I'm going to say. The bigger your audience gets, the more you're held liable, because it's the more influence you have, right? If Amber Heard was somebody, I mean, again, I don't know how you get less known than Amber Heard was before this trial happens, but if you get the lowest level celebrity in Hollywood and someone runs a smear campaign about them, right, people are going to give a shit. And it will escalate. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Puppy's Life, very much. The smallest celebrity can gain national stardom by drama. That is a formula used by Hollywood forever. You catch people in scandalous acts. You send the paparazzi to places that you know they're going to be. So that way you can... Travis Barker and Kourtney Kardashian and Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly are the epitome of that right now. You think these people are really all disparaged every time they're caught on camera? They asked the people to be there. To show that they're traveling to the Bahamas. To show that they're... Oh, we caught him wearing a ring. You think they were caught wearing anything? Who walks out of the house wearing something they don't want to be caught in? Just because they're celebrities doesn't mean because they're wearing bummy, shitty sweatpants that they just don't dress like that. And that them wearing a wedding ring wasn't also designed. That they go, oh, they're wearing a sparkly wedding ring and sweatpants. We caught them. Who do you know that takes their engagement ring off when they're chilling around the house? As a part of the uniform change of when I go out, I put my ring on. When I'm in the house, I take it off. I think most relationships would have an issue with such a thing. So in lawsuits where people lose and are required to pay up copious amounts of money, they don't have. How did the winners of the lawsuits get the money? Could be quite a few things. Like in this situation, no one's house is going to be put up for, like, not saying Amber Heard's could, but like if Amber Heard, say they told Johnny Depp, hey, you win $10 million. They could seize Amber Heard's assets for that. So if she's got cars, she's got houses, she's got all that, they could seize that. The money that is made from the sale of those goes to Johnny. Could. Now, I don't know, because I'm not a lawyer, about how such things are enforced. They could also seize her assets in the sense of any movie she ever got, which I think is going to be non-existent going forward. Her wages could be garnished from that. Anyone who pays child support knows what that's like. There's a lot of ways they could do it. They could set it up to where, hey, you're responsible to pay this man $500,000 every year. Figure it out, right? And if you don't, maybe you could be held in contempt. I don't know. And he could legitimately hold this case over you for the rest of your life until you figure it out. Most of the time, from my understanding in civil litigation, the win comes... I'll read this in a second because it looks like a funny definition of manipulate or gaslighting. It comes in the way of it's a public win. They win. You got the declaration for whatever you're going to do going forward. And sure, you may get some tricklings of money, but if Johnny wins money, this is going to be no different than a residual check for him. This is going to be money that shows up on a somewhat random occurrence whenever she gets some random bullshit gig. But again, I don't think she's going to. Who do you guys know that would book Amber Heard right now? Name the someone said Michael Bay is about to take Amber Heard on in a movie. You talking about the same one that ruined the Transformers movie? Gaslight, verb, manipulate someone by psychological means into questioning their own sanity. / also see Amber Heard. Now, I believe the first part. Lilani's being funny. It doesn't also say see Amber Heard, but yes, Amber Heard is throughout this trial has been a pinpoint example of what, guys, when she sat there and acted like everyone hadn't seen the evidence that we had just seen every single time and goes, that didn't happen. Nope, not like that. She's gaslighting everyone. She's just sticking to a story that is a lie, even though evidence has been presented otherwise. For the people that don't know where the term gaslighting came from, it was before the movie came out. there has since been a movie a long time ago put out about it. The term gaslighting came from a story where husbands would turn lights on in their house and they would convince their wives that they were all walking around in the dark, right? Or vice versa. I forget which one it was exactly. Or they would turn the lights off and convince them the light was on, and the wives would go crazy. They'd be like, the light is off. I can't see the light. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. The light is clearly on. I can see. Everyone else can see. That's why I think it was the light was on. They're saying it was off. Is they're going, everything's fine. And then they convince you that, like, if the light was on, they would convince you damn straight the light is off, and they would have other people corroborate this story with them, so that way this one person believed, holy shit, I've lost my mind. I see, light on, and they're saying it's dark in here. That's where the story comes from. That's why it's called gaslighting, is because back in the day, apparently, husbands used to claim that the gas light was on, and it wasn't. They're saying, I swear to God, I'm in the dark, I can't see. And he's going, no, I can see, the gas light is on. So that's where that comes from. And they made a movie about it. So if that ever helps you to understand what gaslighting truly is, it's like just what Lalani said. It is literally to manipulate someone by psychological means to question their own sanity in reality. Because it's evil. It's literally should be criminal to do to someone. Because people are vulnerable. People are able to be manipulated. And to the point where we don't always remember our own memories or recollections of things correctly. So we count on people in our lives to validate our experiences, right? And that's why it's so important when you see people like Amber who don't have people around that will continuously validate their experiences. Now, again, some people have a hard life and they just don't have many friends. But when you see that someone has this much toxicity in their personality, it's not much to question why, right? Okay. So like I thought it was funny the entire time she had that witness up there talking about the trajectory of her career, because what career? Right. And that was the thing, is how many times did Amber Heard do more damage to herself than Johnny Depp or those Waldman statements ever did to her? Amber, by presenting a lot of her witnesses and her evidence, showed Amber never was shit before Johnny, really even after Johnny. It showed that she was the abuser, not him. It showed that she was directly responsible for the op-ed. She admitted, I wrote the op-ed about him in her last day of trial. You fucking dummy. I mean, what else did she not admit to? She admitted to hitting him. She got caught lying multiple times. She got caught doctoring pictures. She got caught not giving money to sick and dying children. She got caught shamming on the ACLU. Again, all these things would have not come out had she have not gotten greedy and gone for all of Johnny's money. This could have all been avoided and no one would still know who the fuck Amber Heard was. And I still don't believe we would know who she was. Even if she was left completely on her own devices, I still don't think Amber Heard has the character of quality to go out and make something of herself. She's piggybacked off people in her life to get to where she is. To even be relevant enough to stand next to Johnny Depp and claim that he was able to beat your ass. To be that close, you had to stretch this far. And look where it got you. That, again, one of the nicest human beings apparently on the planet was willing to put up with your crazy ass for even 15 months. Now, again, I'm getting into my own personal opinions. All right, guys. It's about 3 o'clock. If you guys have any more questions for me, I'm so glad that we got this stream figured out. It means a lot. We can talk a little bit more about the closing arguments. Again, we are in jury deliberations now, so that is going to continue for, I'm guessing, through the weekend, which will give us all a much-needed break, if I can say so myself. If you've been following it like me, you've been following it every day. The second the trial comes on, you turn it on. The second, I'm looking, okay, I just want to make sure that there's no verdict. You want to stay up to date with it, but it can be a lot. And it's a lot to follow. It's a lot to process. It can bring up a lot for people. I know myself. It's been more therapeutic than it has been challenging for me. Watching some of this has really validated that feeling, like I started with saying, is there's nothing wrong with you as a person because you were treated poorly. There's nothing wrong with you because people in your life haven't been able to understand you. There's nothing wrong with you because you feel deeply and that losing connection with people really hurts you. There's nothing wrong with you for that. And this is a big warning to people to watch who you attach yourself to, that there are real predators out there that will take your vulnerability and use every ounce of you that they can, up to and including destroying your name, your reputation, and everything you've worked so hard for. Gaslighting is a part of the prosecution's deal. Yeah, they did bring it up. I think it speaks volumes how close and carefree Camille is with him, especially if he was a monster. People can't master manipulators, but to hide that in front of a lawyer, that would be crazy. We appreciate your insight. Thank you. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. And I will end on this. I'll end on the mental health, because I promised that I would, aspect on how the lawyers treated Ekala. How much is Amber's net worth? I'm not sure. And honestly, guys, I wouldn't even bother to Google that. Those things are rarely true. They're rarely true. So let's end this. A lot of this case was about mental health, and that's why I cared so much about it. And we got lost in the weeds throughout in a domestic violence claim, sexual violence claims that I think most of us, at least on this stream, would agree to disagree with the defendant on, that those did not happen. So ultimately, at the end of everything, we are looking at a defamation case. Defamation, you said this about me, that's not true. Okay? But somehow, still, over sexual violence allegations, I think just because they were so wild, over physical violence allegations, I think the prominent topic is still mental health. Did you notice Ben Shu get emotional? I did. It shows how much he cares. Again, that wasn't bought and paid for. That was legitimate support you saw between him and Camille for Johnny. Again, mental health seems to be the star coming out. These toxic relationships. What effect do they have on us? What effect do they have on our relationships and past ones, and how they affect our next ones, and how that, whether you heal from that, will affect a future one. But let's talk about the mental health treatment by the lawyers to the defendants themselves. So we're talking Camille to Amber, Ben Chu didn't really talk to Amber that I remember, Dennison, but let's talk mainly Rottenborn to Johnny, Camille to Amber. Mental health wise, as a lawyer, you are required to defend your client. Thank you so much, Maria, I appreciate that so much. You have a responsibility to defend your client to the best of your ability. You do not have an obligation to stand there and further a narrative that, as a human being, behind closed doors, looking at all the evidence, you have to know is not true. So to take a position as a defendant's lawyer, take their money, and stand on the stand and do what Rottenborn did, was absolutely a furtherance of Amber Heard's trauma and abuse to Johnny Depp. Furthermore, that was basic level stuff that Rottenborn pulled. He simply furthered the treatment of Amber just by continuing to stick to Amber's narrative as hard as he did. He could have stuck to facts that they had, as strong or as weak as they were. He could have stuck to facts and let that be. He continued to push Amber's narrative. Then you get to the treatment that Elaine gave Johnny, where Rottenborn definitely extended the trauma and abuse suffered by Amber onto Johnny. Elaine not only extended it, but she added her own spice to hers. She legitimately, by standing there and treating Johnny in that demeaning way, and again saying, Your Honor, this is what Johnny did. That is what's said. That is, and you're clinging past your obligation in your job description. You're legitimately campaigning for this woman. Again, we could have all read it this whole time and gone, man, Amber's team is struggling with these facts. Oh, man, they got nothing. They got nothing. And we would not have been sitting here talking about how Elaine and Rottenborn were giant piles of shit. But by seeing the evidence that was seen, like that we all did, and in choosing to still stand up there and say that your client was sexually violated, domestically abused, and not an abuser herself, and still try to say that she donated the money to the kids, and so many other things that they said. You yourself have now tried to gaslight a jury. Me as a human being that, sure, we're all susceptible to possibly be in court one day. I think for that reason, Rottenborn and Elaine should both be disbarred. You've now shown you are willing, on the grandest of scales, sexual violence, domestic violence, and everything in between is on the line, and you are willing to stand there and further a narrative that is outside of facts. How can you be trusted by the Bar Association? Whether it be to defend or be a prosecutor, we cannot trust you to stick to facts. It's the same question we had with expert witnesses. What good is a trial by a jury of your peers and being sworn to as an American citizen that you are entitled to a trial process? What good is that if you're allowed to stand in court and break laws? Which is, you can just say whatever, you don't have to have any evidence for it, and you can stand there and just go, he raped her. Yeah, but no, he didn't. This entire court process has shown he didn't. But Elaine literally said it, but I'm going to say it anyway. She goes, I know the evidence doesn't show it, but I'm going to say it anyway. She said that towards the end of her thing when she was getting destroyed once Ben Chu started objecting to her narrative, because she's literally going, Your Honor, I know it didn't happen, but I'm sticking to my narrative. Hey, Elaine, you can't do that. You can't just go, this is something that was said. I, as a agent of the court, a servant to law and order, are going to say, yep. Hey, Elaine, yep fucking what? Just yep. Whatever she said. Wait, what do you mean? Yeah, whatever she said. That's fact. What about all the pictures we've seen that shows that none of that happened? No, what she said. What about the doctors and the nurses and all the lack of medical reporting that she had? No. Evidence that we've seen in court, put that away. What she said. That's what they've been asking the jury to do this whole time. And then Rottenborn himself starts his closing arguments by going, look, regardless of everything you've seen, I'm trusting you guys to be able to use your common sense. You mean the common sense you've sat there and disrespected for the last 6 weeks? By assuming that this jury can't use their eyes and ears? That just because you, a lawyer with the title of lawyer, say something, that now this jury should have to take that as gospel. But the second the other side person has the title of lawyer, when they get up, they're lying pieces of shit who can never be trusted because they're bought and paid for. But we're not. Huh, who's that sound like? Maybe their client who can't take responsibility for fucking anything? Nothing? Hey, I know my client sucks, but I think she's telling the truth. Yeah, Mr. Rottenborn, Elaine Benfield, you've had 6 weeks to produce evidence. Yeah, Your Honor, we can't do that. Members of the jury, if you can use your common sense, you'll clearly see we can't fucking do that. Your Honor, I could use some help because I see no way to win this if I can't just say things. Yeah, Mr. Rottenborn, you can't just say things. Check that. I'm not just going to say things. That's essentially what they did during jury instructions. He goes, you're going to ask me, or he goes, I'm not going to say that he executed attorney-client privilege, but if you write the instructions out this way, I'm not saying I'm going to say it, but you might be forcing my hand. I'm not going to say it, but I'm not. What are you doing? You're blackmailing someone. You're using something that you're not allowed to use, being his constitutional protected amendment to his own silence in the process of court and protected client confidentiality. And you're going, if you don't do what's best for me and what I'm saying, I might just break the rules and break the law. I don't want to have to do that in your court, but I might just do that in your court. And she goes, hey, Rottenborn, the fuck you are. And if you've ever dealt with a narcissist, do you guys remember that moment? For those of you that have dealt with a narcissist, there's a moment where you either get tired of cowering and you're not afraid of them anymore. You've taken enough of their bullshit that you're just genuinely not afraid of it anymore. And there comes a moment where you go, hey, yo, how about you shut the fuck up? Just simple. You've never said that before. I'm talking about the first moment, the first time. Because if you say it too much, like if you're saying shut the fuck up in every fight, it loses its steam. It loses its pepper. But if you're in a relationship with a real narcissist, I'm talking, like Johnny said, you lose your voice. You're not allowed to say shit that doesn't comply with their exact narrative. There comes a moment, I hope, for all of you, where you get to go, hey, yo, how about you shut the fuck up? Real quick, just real fast. Can I interject? You, shut the fuck up. Why? Because I don't give a damn about what you're saying anymore. That is essentially what the judge got to do to Elaine. When she goes, Your Honor, I'm just going to say it anyway. She goes, the fuck you are in my court. And it got real serious. Like they got pulled into a sidebar on closing where the judge had to sit there and go, you're flirting with a very dangerous line here, Miss Bedfield. You understand, you cannot, in a court of law, stand here and say in your closing arguments that while though the evidence has shown otherwise, we are here to declare Johnny Depp committed not only sexual violence but domestic violence. You just admitted to the court that you have no evidence and you're going to make an unethical, immoral, knowingly false statement under oath, face to face, eye to eye, with the jury. You're fucking dumb as shit. Hey, you're fucking dumb as shit. Same thing with you, old Rottenborn. You just told the judge, Your Honor, I know I'm not allowed to speak on his constitutional right of silence, but if you don't give me what I want, guess who's hopping down the bunny trail? Rotten Rabbitborn. Here I am to hop right into some fucking trouble. And he hopped close enough to the fire that his cute little bushy tail got burned. So he hopped his candy ass back. What's the problem with Elaine? She's an older rabbit. She's been burned a few times. Her hair's kind of matted. She's got a lot of shit in it. She probably slept in a lot of piles of shit in her day. It's a little matted. She got a little bit of protection from that fire. She walked a little close to that fire. And she got burned. Because she stood up there and goes, Your Honor, I'm going to say what my client said. In front of the jury, the judge says, the fuck you are. Not, I'm paraphrasing in my language, the judge would never speak that way, obviously. That was a crucial moment, and that's where we're going to end this stream, and we will talk more about the mental health aspect of this case, obviously, as things goes on. But the audacity, and I see people are getting a kick out of my commentary towards Elaine being wildly immoral. But here's the thing. All joking aside, again, I'm a component for using comedy is a way to deal with tense and uncomfortable situations. This entire trial is tense and it's uncomfortable. I'm with you all. Okay? If you cannot learn to look at things, now, to be able to make light of a situation, I believe you should be able to be objective of a situation. So, you need to be able to at least empathize with both sides. I don't need you to sympathize with both sides. I don't need you to sympathize with anybody. But to be able to make light of a situation, you need to be able to put yourself in someone's shoes. So, do you need to have the same mindset that Amber Heard has? No. I need you to be able to look. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. You guys are both awesome. Sending you all my love. Thank you. You need to be able to look at Amber Heard and go, that is a human being. That is, and just like she said, this is the one thing I did agree with in her ending parts, her closing arguments. She says, I'm a human being who has to live after this. And that is valid. She's a human being. She's 32, 35 years old. I started this stream by saying this needs to be the effective end of cancel culture. That does not mean that Amber Heard needs to be the last victim of cancel culture. I'm not saying that Amber Heard, if I ever see her up in a movie again, I'm going to cause a whole bunch of blah, 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 blah about it. No, I'm not. I don't like Amber Heard. I don't think she's a good person, so I personally will never support a movie she's in. I would look very, very poorly on any director, any studio that at this point put her in a movie. Okay? So that's my personal choice to make. Am I going to go sign a campaign petition for her to not be an Aquaman? No. Am I going to go share a bunch of tweets and memes of her making stupid faces on the stand and accusing her of having things in water bottles and doing all that? No. Because that's how you get yourself in legal fucking trouble. Making accusations about someone that you cannot prove. This is where you can learn a lesson in empathy. Because while you may never be able to see yourself making a claim of another person sexually violating you or domestically violating you, some of us see no qualms in a moment of impulse to share something on social media that we don't know is valid. What is the difference? Especially when implications are so high, when you're accusing people, mothers, whether you agree with her motherhood or not, fathers, sisters, brothers, we're taking clips that we're seeing on the internet and we're posting them to our pages as gospel. This is what happened. And then, when they're not Johnny Depp or Amber Heard, and they're going through a court litigation that no one gives a fuck about, and this person is cleared, and, you know, there was more context, or the shooting didn't go down that way, or, you know, we just don't follow the trial to find out that it didn't happen the way the clip looked like it does. We are all still sitting there with the idea in our head that this person is some pile of shit. And then what? There's no defamation trial. But every single one of us now had no problem perpetuating a lie in a story that we had no business telling. So can you now empathize with Amber Heard of making a false allegation that you know nothing about? Now, hers was way more direct, right? But the personal gain of sharing something on social media is maybe people will like this. Maybe the 10 people that give a fuck about me might give me a thumbs up and make me feel special for a second. But what we don't understand, if it's not ironclad fact, one, you're opening yourself up for legal liability, but you're also doing what Amber Heard did, which is making an accusation you can't prove. Let's not do that. Let's learn from Amber Heard. Social media is powerful. It can turn on you in a second. All you content creators out there better fucking get a pen and paper and write a fucking note, because I'm about to school you motherfuckers. What you do, the influence you put out there, you are responsible for. If you get on your social media sites, you get on your live streams, you get on your fucking whatevers, and you start talking about this person's that, this person's this, you might in 2022 want to find some goddamn empathy, some grace, some humanity in your heart, and get rid of this let's tear the entire world of shit down, because this is what we're finding. We're all full of shit. We are all full of shit. Thank you. We are all full of shit. None of us is exempt from that. The lengths in which we're willing to go to continue our stories of being full of shit, we've all lied. We've all exaggerated. We've all embellished. We've all told white lies. We've all gone places and claimed we didn't. We've all claimed we were going to be places and never showed up. We've all made mistakes. One of my favorite quotes is, the thing that could ruin you in your life, that thing that could absolutely fucking destroy you, you've already done it. So stop worrying about it. I had someone very close to me, one of the closest people you can have in your life, continuously, while I'm trying to build my career on social media, is constantly asking me, what if someone comes for you? What if someone came for you? What if someone made an allegation about you? And I would always have to say, yeah, but when you know your truth, when you know who you are, when you know that you've never assaulted anyone. Now, yes, I've talked crazy to people, but I've never sexually, physically assaulted anyone, never physically harmed anyone ever. I've never even sexually harassed anyone, never made off-putting comments that were received the wrong way. Never, ever have I put myself in a situation like that, because I was always raised to be very careful of things like that. I was raised by all women. So again, I grew up with a great respect for women, but I also grew up with a great respect for a woman's scorn. Now, that's not a judgment on any of the women that I grew up with, but it was a testament to some of the women that I was in relationships with. And I, unfortunately, got so used to a woman's scorn that I thought that it was normal that women just treated men like shit all the time. And that's where I started to see terms as I got older, like happy wife, happy life. And I go, well, isn't that not fair? I'm not saying it's not my job to, continue to court you and continue to make you feel special and value you in every way that I can. But happy wife, happy life leaves a whole lot of me sitting over here on my ass feeling like shit. So now it's since been changed where it's like happy spouse, happy house. So it's like, everybody's supposed to put in their 50-50, but we just have to acknowledge the fact, guys, that that's not always been the story. So Johnny Depp and his trial, and where it went from Me Too movement to now it's become the Men Too movement, I want to urge us not to do that either. While it shouldn't have really been Me Too, and it should have never, I don't agree with making it a Men Too, let's just make it hashtag context. Anytime you hear something about someone, whether you know them personally or it's a celebrity online, do me a favor and go, do I know this for a fact? No. Is this a trial? Am I looking at evidence? No. Then let me go ahead and hold off on any impulsive acts to share this, engage with this, tell someone about this, because this could be a bot. It could be pushing a narrative that I don't understand. It could be a paid advertisement or a paid PR stunt by someone against someone else. Everybody who's in this stream right now, I believe you're here because you appreciate context. You appreciate the truth. So I understand that in a sense I'm preaching to a choir. But it's people like us that enjoy the context, that enjoy long form. It's the amazing, amazing people who hung out with me for the first, whatever it was, 15, 20 minutes of the stream where I'm echoing and I'm muted and I'm coming back and I got feedback coming in all over the place telling me that I'm doing good and everything's fucking up and then it's coming back. Like, these are people that don't expect perfect, but they expect authenticity. They expect, effort. And they expect that when you come correct. And I can just tell you, I could not be more proud to be a part of any community than I am the one that we're building here on Facebook or on YouTube, which is extending out to Facebook and TikTok mainly, because I'm getting a lot of you guys saying, yes, I found you on Facebook or TikTok and now I'm coming here. I am proud, obviously, of my children first and foremost. I am so proud of the community that we're building here, because you see, the only person I've had to ban this entire chat is a bot that's pushing sex clicks, links, or whatever. It's clearly trash shit that just pops up in every live stream. There has not been one person who got in here that just wanted to start shit with you guys, just to start shit with you guys. And that's not because of me. That's, I've tried very hard over the years to make it to where I don't use clickbaity headlines and I don't just put tits and ass up in front of people to try to get clicks for stuff. I wanted to when people found appreciation for what this is, they connect to it because they relate to it. And they're proud to go tell people what they found and how it's impacted them. Right? And so when you guys come in here and you are kind to each other and you do put up with my crazy ranting and all over the place and my technical issues because, you took a chance on me and you joined a live and you hung out and you watched and, there was no vested interest. There was 1,000 other streams you guys could have all gone and watched. But something inside of you, yeah, right, that bot came in quick, didn't they, fuckers? But every single one of you, something in you sat and went, there's something here. I don't know what. I don't know anybody that likes listening to echoing audio or something, but something inside your intuitive nature, we need to be the change we seek. Perfect. But that comes by making the hard decision. And I've learned that the hard way. How many times does one person need to not learn to drink and drive? Apparently for me, it's fucking 3. You would think after the first time you would learn. You would think after the second time you'd really fucking learn. And then after the third time, when you're going, oh shit, I'm looking at 7 to 10 years in prison. What the fuck? You go, oh, hey, drinking and driving isn't smart. I could hurt someone. I could kill myself. And then you're able to look and go, well, I never meant any harm. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I never would have gotten behind the wheel if I thought that I actually could have hurt someone. And then, as you're sitting in, jail oranges and you're sitting in a cell and you're trying to figure out how the fuck did I become this person, you go, oh, everybody I see in this jail is just a person who's made choices. Some terrible, some misguided. But then I looked and I was like, oh, fuck, I'm sitting here relating mentally to criminals. Some of which just told me they're about to go spend 15 to 20 years upstate for fucking murdering someone. And I'm sitting here understanding how they could be here. What the fuck is wrong with me? But then it wasn't until I evaluated and I go, oh, I only understand that because I've been put in a situation where I loved people, situations, the idea of things so much that I identified myself so much to them that I would have been willing to either kill someone and go to prison for my entire life over it or end myself through suicide if I can't have this thing. Then you look and you go, oh, I have no control over myself. I allow all these other things to control me. I let other people's opinions, other people's amount of attention, their love, their admiration, even just their general opinion of me. That means more to me than me. Because if I liked me, I wouldn't give a fuck what anyone thought. And that's where you see social media goes awry. That's where I can tell you that's the easiest way to find authenticity. Watch who people are on their social media, right? That's a projection of who they are. And then see, does that line up over a span of time? Is that the same person possibly doing different shit. Sure, people have different hobbies. They don't stay in the same niches forever. But is this person growing? Are they learning? Sure, they might have said some ignorant ass shit 10 years ago. They were 10 years younger then. Hey, context. What happens if you're 27 and you said some dumb shit 10 years ago? You were 17. What's that? You went from being a child to being an adult. What do kids do all the time? Say dumb shit. What do kids do all the time? Do dumb shit. This is a perfect moment, as I'm about to sign off. I want to send all my love and all my support to the victims of the shooting in Texas. I don't want, and I've been a little upset even at myself, at my allowing Johnny Depp's trial to consume my time so much to the point where I have not been able to comment at all on the shooting that happened in Texas. So I will pause on what we're talking about here, and I want to take a second to simply send my love to any person that was affected, any victim, any friends, families of any victims. Obviously, the natural relation we make to this is Sandy Hook. From my understanding, which is so small, it's why I'm hesitant to say anything about it at all. From my understanding, most of the children were above the ages of generally 8 to 10. And there was 2 adults. So I believe Sandy Hook, the children were much younger. That does not make this situation better than that one. This doesn't make anything okay. And I'm going to try hard not to get upset. This is why I didn't fucking talk about it. But I have kids. I have 2 daughters who I love more than anything. And I started my career on social media as a gun enthusiast and as a veteran who shot guns and shot fully automatic guns. And I was the Glock guy, and I kind of rose to a very small level of internet stardom with hundreds of thousands of views on my tactical shooting videos. I got out of that. Hello, Marina. I got out of that because I saw the toxicity in it. I saw how we as veterans were portraying ourselves to be Billy Badasses as we took to rifle courses and, obviously for us, professional environments. We're professionals at what we do. I was a military, police, combat support soldier. I trained extensively in the weapons I carried and the gear that I carried. So that right there, let me disengage any fuck shit argument that I want to hear from any fuck ass fake patriots that want to talk about gun rights are an ironclad thing that we should not talk about at all. Here's the fucking difference between an 18-year-old kid walking the street and an 18-year-old kid that joins the military. An 18-year-old kid that joins the military is trained how to use the fucking weapons he has and the gear that he carries on him. And he knows when to pull the trigger. The first thing you're taught is that you do not aim that weapon at anything you do not intend to kill. And you have a designated enemy pointed out to you for reasons that you can be backed up and going to attack. Being a fuck-ass 18-year-old with some extreme views that you gained from a fucking YouTube video, Facebook playlist that you fucking joined, group you joined, that doesn't make you a fucking veteran or a patriot, because you can stand there and go, anyone who doesn't like ARs is a fucking idiot. Look what just happened. Look what has continued to happen because we keep saying 18-year-old kids, no problem Because at 18 years old, if you qualify, you can qualify to join the military. You should be able to, on any given fucking Tuesday, to go buy an AR with a high capacity mag and just own that bitch. What the fuck did I say when Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty of that? I said, you're about to see an influx of 18-year-old kids with ARs going and doing a bunch of dumb shit, and they're not gonna give a fuck how they bought it. Right? That's what saved Kyle Rittenhouse. They did not care that the other kid had bought the gun, kept it in his house, and on the day in question, Rittenhouse shows up, takes said gun that he didn't buy. It's not his. He's not going hunting. He's not going skeet shooting. Grabs it, takes off out the fucking door, and the judge dropped that charge. At that moment, I knew we were in fucking trouble, and I am an advocate for the Second Amendment. So again, you can miss me with your fake patriot bullshit. I have said for a long ass time, if the government says an 18-year-old kid can have a rifle, I'm not here to argue with the Constitution. I'm not. If you want to have a weapon that was not developed or even in existence when this Constitution was written, we have upgraded technologies now that are capable of way more, and we're seeing what's going on with that. If the government makes a speculation that you have to be a specific age to own a gun, fine. Let's acknowledge that there's different tiers of weapon. Some weapons can do some things that other weapons cannot. Can we agree on that? A pistol can do something. A rifle can do something. A rifle can shoot longer than a pistol. Unless you have a aftermarket, usually, extended mag, your pistol is not going to shoot as much as your rifle. So we have different characteristics. So why then does it make sense that an 18-year-old kid can go in and buy a shotgun that can shoot in single shot, semi-automatic most times, where you can repump it and shoot if it's a pump action? I'm using an example. Why can he buy that for hunting, but then can also be qualified to handle the semi-auto of not needing to repump anything? Just the act of pulling the trigger is enough for a semi-auto at large capacities for far distance without having to qualify for this extra advantage you now have. Because guess what? The argument is that the Second Amendment is to defend against acts of tyranny against the government if they're going to come and try to attack you, right? Now, yes, the government has ARs. They also have fucking airplanes that they can shoot you with that have guns attached to them. Should you be allowed to have an airplane that shoots guns? Are you fucking Ted Bundy? Which Bundy was it? What's the Bundy? The rock star. The guy that shoots the pigs out of the airplane. You guys know who I'm talking about. I get confused because there's the serial killer, there's Al Bundy, Ted Nugent, I think is who I'm thinking. Ted Nugent. Got off my rant here. You get my point. An 18-year-old kid who's struggling with life, I think it's a good idea you send his little ass to the military. It's what happened to me. I don't know who I would have become had I not gone to the military and learned about discipline and structure, and I learned to respect firearms for what they were. I had no real experience with guns. I'll be honest. I bought a gun when I was too young to have one. I bought one from my friend that had one. I bought it, kept it on me quite often, a little revolver, when I was not old enough to have one. Kept it under my seat, didn't know anything about it, and it rusted so bad that I literally couldn't even carry it anymore. Why? Because I didn't know how to use it. I was a fucking threat to myself more than anyone. Carrying around a gun that I never had loaded on me because I was too afraid to load it at the time. Just having it, I was more of a threat to myself, because if anyone would have got a hold of that thing, they could have loaded it and hurt me faster than I could have hurt them with it. But it's because I was too young to know better. I saw gun, thought tough guy, connect the two. Now look who's a Billy Badass. I had $80 and a dodgy friend. I'm good. So, had I been in the age of the internet, and I maybe was pushed into a radical Facebook group, or I was up since 5 days ago spurging on Mountain Dew and Red Bull, listening to fucking extreme YouTube videos on why your race makes you better than everyone else, maybe if I just went and acquired a rifle or two, I might be tempted to do some wild shit, especially if I've never gone through any type of training to give me discipline, structure, and firearms training. So maybe we need to stop treating all 18-year-olds alike. Like the ones that qualify for the military aren't exceptional folks. Like they're not the 1% of the population. Why did we give those law enforcement and military people the ability to handle such weapons? Because we need them to deal mass destruction. If we are ever so, attacked or needing to defend something. So again, isn't it true patriotism to understand the levels in which violence is possible and to respect that and to truly value children first? Because you're not protecting your kid by teaching them that they're an American patriot because at 18 you bought them a gun and taught them to shoot a fucking squirrel. You did them no favors in that. You might convince yourself that you validated your fucking flag that you have hanging behind you, right? But you didn't teach your fucking kid how to be a decent human. You didn't teach your kid what was right. So ultimately, you put your child in fucking danger by giving them a lethal weapon that they are not properly trained how to use. So if you taught them to hunt and fish and do all this, and because of that, you feel validated that your kid, who's not military or law enforcement trained, should get this gift for their 18th birthday because they're going to think it's cool and stuff. I pray to fucking God that they don't experience their first heartache with that gun around. I pray to God that they don't get in a toxic relationship with that gun around. I pray to God that riot doesn't break out in your downtown area with that gun around. And I pray to God that they don't ever experience with drugs or alcohol and that gun be around. Because you're excluding the ability for human potential when you just disregard everything and the lives that have been lost in the past countless years to watching specifically 18-year-old kids with ARs mow down other kids in schools. I'm excluding, for the sake of argument, shopping malls, stoops, gas stations in Baltimore, Maryland, college campuses. I'm talking about high schools and younger schools. Again, for the sake of argument, I'm not bringing up all the other times. With adults, unqualified, with ARs. There was one that I remember, the Washington shooting, where that was a naval veteran. And I'm pretty sure he had a shotgun. What was the number? 19? There are 19 children who will never see a future. Precious, innocent children. If you don't have a child in your life, you may not be able to understand this. If you have a child, a cousin, a child yourself, a brother, a sister, a nephew, go today, even if it's just on Facebook, find a clip of someone you know, and watch a child play. Watch them play. Watch them engage with something they love. Watch them learn like they do in a school. Watch how excited they get to learn. And then watch how excited they get at the end of every day to come and have their parents pick them up. And what that does to a parent that struggles with mental health, seeing that kid and getting that hug is fucking everything. There's 19, to my knowledge, kids that will never be able to be excited to learn again, to be dropped off to school to see their friends, have their first homecoming, 16th birthday, first date, first cup of coffee with their parent, first beer, first joint. Those moments that we're all going to act like don't really happen, those special moments in life that mean something to the average human. Not the Johnny Depps and the Amber Heards, but the normal person that lives every day, that's heartbroken, that goes through heartbreak, that supports their kid, that sees them score, watches them get the test score that they need. You're telling me that we are American patriots because we want to, or we're able to repeat a rhetoric that all guns or firearms should be created equal, and that there's no conversation to be had that the Constitution that we're referencing, that we're claiming, and again, I was in the military, I raised my right hand and I swore to defend that Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But a part of that oath is not, and I swear to keep my mouth shut as long as you motherfuckers shall agree. This is also, I'm out and I'm allowed to use my own fucking head and observations about life and go, hey, we have a problem here. I'm not discrediting what the firearm can do. I'm crediting very much what the firearm can do. I respect firearms very much. I, as someone who's used them and have trained on them, I enjoy firearms. They are fun to be around and train with and do that. I'm also telling you that outside of the times that they're fun to train with and carry and whatever, and fun, if you're carrying one, it's not a good time. Something bad is happening, right? So most people in life can't relate to that because even it's proven most officers don't have to draw their pistol in the line of their complete careers. It's actually rare when an officer has to do that. That's why we see clips of it. So most people that own guns for home defense, you never have to use that, most of us. We have them. We're entitled to have them. That's good. We say and we stand on our Constitution. That's why we're allowed to have them. Guns, no problem. I'm not a gun asshole, so I'm not going to sit up here and go, AR, assault rifle. It's an Armalite rifle. That's what it is. And it's a semi-automatic, unless altered or available for military. Then you have 3-round burst. But you have to have a special license to have a fully automatic weapon, and you have to pretty much be a manufacturer to get that in today's day and age. Or you have to have some extenuating credentials. So, again, we're talking an AR, typically 5.56 .223 rifle, that can shoot between 1 shot or 30 capacity mag with 1 in the chamber, usually, is your standard setup. So for hunting, if you need 30 rounds, you're not a good hunter. I pray to God your family's not counting on you for deer meat because you fucking suck if you need to shoot a deer 30 times. Hey, give someone else the gun. Now, do you want to argue with me that you should be able to throw a grenade at that deer? Because there's not going to be much meat left. But if we're saying all weapons are equal, and we use artillery in detonation devices in war, or in conflict resolution, well then, hit that motherfucker with a bazooka, my guy. Not necessarily not saying you shouldn't be able to the public. I'm saying I think a very smart move for us is to not try to regulate the rights of people to have guns. Put another step in place. You want to own a gun? Fine. You want to be 18 years old and own a rifle? Fine. No problem. Prove that you've trained. Go into the military or set up an accredited system for civilians where they go through not a basic training, but just a firearms training class to get your CCW. Now, a lot more places have constitutional carry now than they used to. But before, to get your CCW, you had to go through a classroom portion and then a shooting portion. Over the years, that became a fucking joke, and everyone knew you could pay $80, find a person that called themselves an instructor, get your thing signed, boom, you got your CCW, as long as you don't have any reason to not be allowed to have a gun, right? So we're not, and you have to go through a background check to legally purchase a firearm anyway. So again, if you want to buy a shotgun, right, and you buy a shotgun, fine, do it how you do now. That's a gun that you're by the Constitution. It's pretty close to a musket, right? It's not, but I'm trying to work with the gun crazy people here. A shotgun is closer to a musket constitutionally, which was around when the Constitution was around. They were just getting into like actual guns. And again, that was because they needed to have superior firepower over the people that they were fighting who had fucking arrows and stuff. They wanted to maintain, we will always be able to have a level of superiority over the people that we are fighting. So all my point is, let's not get caught up and act like it's red versus blue again, it's gun versus anti-gun, because that's not what this is. This is, we as the people have a problem. We need to fix that problem. I do not believe in restricting people's rights. I'm not opposed to the old military standard. You can add to, but not take away from. So I can add implementations. I can add more restrictions for you to get that gun. But I cannot take away your ability to get that gun, right? You have every right to go get the gun. I can make it just a hair harder for you to get that if you cannot prove that you should have that. Does that sound like a bad idea? Anybody who's upset about that goes, hey, I need to cross this barricade before I can carry an exemplary amount of firepower. Well, I don't appreciate that people want to restrict my ability to carry all this firepower unchecked. Why? Well, I don't like being checked by stuff. Yeah, but why? Well, I don't think people know the way to do things. Okay? I don't speak German, but I would imagine in Hitler's beginning, he said a lot of shit like that. A lot of people that want to control narratives, they just want to do things because they want to do them. Well, I don't think that's a good idea because I don't think it's a good idea. Hey, Amber. So you're just going to say things just because you think you should be able to say things. Is that what we're getting at? So you thinking that you should just continue to be able to walk in and buy a gun because you claim that you're such a good person, that alone discredits just the 19 lives that I believe. If I'm wrong on that number, please someone tell me. The 19 lives that were just lost in this last shooting, not tallying up all the lives lost in the last couple of years. What are we doing? So again, I think we're tricked a lot of time to believe that we're being patriotic and that we're acting out of patriotism when we're holding ignorantly onto things. And with that, again, I say all this to send my love to the victims of the shooting in Texas, to send my love to all of you guys. I appreciate you all so very much for hanging out with me and working with me during my live stream, my first ever one. Now we're set up. We are ready to rock and rock with all this. I don't know what else I was going to say. Rock and roll with this thing. The live streams will be more frequent. I appreciate every single person that hung out with me. I'm sure the rewatching of this, the first 20 minutes, most people won't get through it, but hopefully they will, and they'll make it to the end where we actually got into some solid conversation. I appreciate it. Let me get into these questions. I'm going to go ahead and jump out of here and say good evening to the chat and everybody for the night. Jessica Myron, my kids are saving my life. Sending you all the love. I definitely know what that's like. So are you saying there should not be available? Answer that one. Not disagreeing, just asking. Gotcha. No problem. something has to give. Guys, I'm always down for conversation. Don't ever feel bad if you put up an idea that's conflicting to mine. As long as we're all being cool, I'm totally down. There's just so much mental health issues in the country. And there really is. And again, we're realizing that that's not a bad thing, right? There are so many mental health issues in the country right now, and that doesn't mean that there's so many bad people in the world. It just means that there's a lot of people struggling. So, if we're struggling and we see what's going on and we're assessing the data and looking at the observations and we think that there's a tweak in our game plan, I don't think it's a bad idea to explore that. That's all I'm saying. Hey, Amber, guns should be classed into different categories like vehicles. Bang, you need it. Bang! Jessica Myron, killing it. Different license for cars, motorcycles, construction companies. Most need testing courses to get. Guys, I think you need different levels to catch bigger size fucking fish. Like, I can't just go out and catch a shark. I think you have to have, like, a big fish license or some shit like that. But again, buying a 9mm with a 17 round capacity. 9mm, again, can go about 150 to 250 feet. Again, if I'm 21, I can buy that, which would mean I can buy an AR that you have to be 18 to buy, where I can then get 30 rounds of 5.56 that can travel accurately, roughly 300 to 450 meters. Hey, I don't think that makes sense. I love you guys so much. You're the best. Thank you, everyone. Please go tell your friends. Before you get out of here, please hit the like button for me. It tells other people that this was decent. Leave a comment and just let people know, hey, the shit gets better. He struggled for the first 15 minutes. Outside the super chat, leave an actual chat in the comment once it pops up. Guys, I promise it gets better. He figures out the audio and I may even timestamp it, audio fixes here. And I appreciate you guys more than you know for hanging out with me for 2 hours. 3 hours we just did this. You guys are the best. I love you so much, and we will see you next week.